What I've been warning you all for all these years and have tried to warn the authorities for decades finally came out November last year. That the man behind the terrible Paris attacks of 2015 and many other terrorist attacks all over the world was a Swiss and a member of the notorious Octagon of the Swiss Nazi Templars. His name is Thomas Marcel Christen, from the town of Nussbaum in the canton of Aargau. Right next, and like 10 kilometers away, right next to Rupperswil, like Jack the Ripper, where on winter solstice 2015, and with the help of the Swiss Nazi police, the perverted Swiss serial killer Thomas Nick, also by the name of Thomas, raped and sodomized a 13-year-old boy in front of his mother and afterwards terminated the whole family with 3 young children. See here my videos about it. And this Swiss serial killer also roamed all over the US. The Swiss canton of Aargau is a very violent part of Switzerland with many neo-Nazis. Just like Thomas Marcel Christen by the Islamic battle name of Abu Musab al-Swisri and head of the special ISIS detachment Katiba Furgan of the notorious ISIS Amniyat by the Western intelligence services called OSEO, O-S-E-O, for Operation Structure External Operations. He is also from the Swiss canton of Aargau. And the Jews too had to find out the hard way about the accumulated violence of the Swiss canton of Aargau, when in 1776, see my film here, and because of the Nazi Templars having their powerful New World Order state America together, through their also 1776 Illuminati wing, without having to fear the old world order anymore, who basically always tried to protect the Jews like any other citizen. Swissy rounded all the Jews up in 1776 in the entire Swaziland and forced them into the canton of Aargau, into the small towns of Endingen and Lengnau, and also next to Nussbaumen, where the elusive Swiss terrorist of Octagon is from. And as the 2 Swiss Jew concentration towns were right at the German border, they all crossed over into safe Germany, or Ashkenazi in German, which means Germany, and developed their own German language called Yiddish, and lived in safety from the Swiss Nazi Templars until they got caught up by Swissy again 150 years later, when Swissy rounded them all up again with the Swiss Templar Nazis and burned them in the camps. The name Aargau probably comes from Sargau, for Sar, for Pharaoh, and Gau is a Nazi Gauleiter, Sargauleiter. There are absolutely no pictures nor footage of the elusive Swiss Abu Musab al-Swisri, and he wasn't a real Muslim either, just as the Swiss Templar Nazis were no real German nationalists. Therefore, the Swiss Nazis, the Swiss Nazi Templars, with their SS Gauleiter from Aargau, killing all the real German nationalists during the night of the long knives and afterwards, just as the Islamic State did a horrendous butchery on true Muslims and even on their own members, exactly the same Nazi energy as in World War II, exactly the same modus operandi, exactly the same fear control on their own followers, and exactly the same geostrategical wars for the Nazi gold and other Nazi treasures still in the Swiss Templar caves. And here Octagon founding the Islamic State to go after the last drops of oil, of which I explain in my video, the Middle East trilogy, which they deleted on Vimeo and Dailymotion, and which FuckTube didn't even let me entirely upload the third part. But this good person here saved it for us all on this video here. So please re-upload it under its original name. And you can find the link in the description under the film, the Middle East trilogy on my channel, CIA. So compared to all the other ISIS members, as you can see here, this Swissy here, whom they call the world's most dangerous terrorist, has an entirely different attitude. As if he were trained by some intelligence service, already knowing beforehand that the end of the Islamic State would come in only a few years. Whereas all the other members believed all the religious hocus pocus of 1,000-year Reich of the Caliphate by Allah himself, therefore willingly posing for pictures and videos for Allah's servants. And only El Swissy here seemed to be informed of another future and had already read the screenplay textbook. Just as Martin Bormann, of course the Minister of Finances of the Third Reich, Swissy? Hardly any pictures of him and disappeared without a trace in 1945. Just like Abu Musab al-Swissri. Nobody knows where he went to and what happened. I know he's in Swaziland. Just like the Swiss Nazi Alain Soral, as in Sar al, back to the motherland, escaping the French justice today. Like Dr. Mengele, the notorious, extremely cold-hearted, ethnic Swiss Auschwitz camp doctor. And here you can see him in Swaziland, in Hotel Angel here. And this is a picture of the guy here. Under his real name, he was having nice holidays in Swaziland. Just like the French traitor Marshal or General Pétain in 1944, when he tried to escape to the motherland. They actually did, and they got him back. Or like this Swissy here, Joachim Landwehr, who tried to kill some French cops in 2017 in order to spark civil war in France. And he went to Switzerland and they protect him, no problem. Etc., etc. And the list goes on and on and on. Nobody will ever stop Swaziland. Al-Swissri here probably is the Islamic version for El-Swissy, following an old Arabic tradition to honor those Swiss cameloads full of money for the holy expansion of the goddess. No guys, lay off, not that expansion. Say what? Yeah, horizontal rule, yeah. El-Swissy here even forbade cameras and all cell phones in his vicinity, like a perfect Swiss banker counting it all up without making any mistake at all. Whereas the rest of them jihadis were taking selfies like a busload full of Japs next to the Eiffel Tower. Or in this case a camelload full of international jihadi tourists. So El-Swissy's profile is worrisome, very distinctively different from the rest, and heavily smells Western intelligence and its elusive octagon top. I think Octagon selected him when not El-Swissy yet, did his military service in the Swiss militia, and it should be important to know in what kind of regiment he served. So another very precise Swissy here, which you can see in this film of mine here like 10 years ago. This is not an El-Swissy, but it's a Heil-Swissy or Heil-Swissy. And it is the SS Standartenführer, it's a Swiss colonel then, you know, in the SS in Germany, The SS Standartenführer, the Swiss Karl Jäger, writing down every single person and child they manually slaughtered. A Swiss hit list on soft targets, which is their speciality, of 400,000 people murdered. The horrendous Jäger report by Heil Swissy here, or Hail Swissy. The precise Swiss and their Octagon agent on the terrain, Abu Musab al-Swissy, thought of the smallest detail. The Swiss are very precise in the denial of their crimes, but not in the admittance of their perpetuous crimes and elaborated Swiss crime industry all over the world. This is why the Swiss were the big absent at the Nuremberg trials, because as usual, Octagon had all their men occupying all key positions. Like the Swiss-American Dwight Eisenhower, the leading general of all the combined Allied forces. And in spite of the fact that Swissy had 3 murderous concentration camps for American aviators called Vaux-Villarmoz, Les Diablerets and Hunneberg, which you can witness in my film here. Eisenhower just said, "The war is over now." Eisen in Swiss German means metal, and hauen, to hit, a blacksmith. Eisenhower. Swissy even had Swiss concentration camps on US soil by Swiss captain Heinrich Wirtz, which you can see here in this video here. And the bodies you can see here lying around, the American citizens killed in a Swiss concentration camp by the Swiss in America. And it's again the German Bild-Zeitung delivering the intel on El Swissy terrorist here. Just as the same German Bild-Zeitung came looking for Dr. Mengele in Swaziland and even found that the angel of death was living with his sister in the Schwimmbadstraße, number 9 in Kloten, Zurich, Switzerland. But the Swiss authorities, who perfectly knew, didn't want to hear anything about it. Now here you can see it. It's the Bild am Sonntag. Journalists, Germans. The Swiss know it and they never do anything about it. Anyway, the Swiss Nazi police are too busy with their corruption business model of massive extortions and Swiss police ransoms industry by Swiss police kidnappings. They have no time for real police work, and especially not by looking for Swiss citizens, as you can see here in my recent videos here. Just as today with the Omerta Nazi Templar laws of silence around their base of Octagon in the Alps, no media and no authorities worldwide pick up the intel on the Swiss terrorist. Because of the Nazi Templar political wing, they're Freemasons on all key positions in the entire New World Order world, keeping their rubber base in the Alps neutral, clean and innocent. You don't talk about Switzerland, ever. And it says that the Berlin attacker, he slipped under the Swiss authorities' radar. The Swiss, I tell you, the Swiss authorities, they don't have a radar. They only have a money counting machine with their kidnappings, ransoms and extortions. There is no Swiss radar. It's just a money counting machine, that's all. Corruption pure. They don't do their work as they should do. Anyway, they would never go and seek any so-called jihadist who is actually an Octagon member. To which even the fucktube Nazis here, my CIA channel, they abide to these Swiss laws of silence by censoring, deleting this video here because of hate speech against Mr. Hitler. A strike for hate speech against Hitler and his Swiss Nazi gang of Templar thugs. You know, FuckTube are a bunch of Nazi liars. Here in this film here, there's absolutely no violence or graphic content in it. They're a bunch of liars. They only look at the title, you know, and that's all. So I have to be very delicate with choosing the words and titles I choose. And as I'm being pink listed as well, I cannot openly present information about the sexual orientation of these terrible Nazi Templars and their horrendous crimes against humanity, because otherwise I'd have the thought police of this particular group delete the valuable information. So I'm forced to censor myself in this Stasi system we live in, and only bring you 80% of the whole story for not confronting our master's agenda too much, arousing the hatred towards me of those who are already perverted by the masters. I'm sorry. You can see again, it's Swissy, Switzerland, 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 Swissy here. And they don't talk about it, you know, it's just in little newspapers maybe, local. The laws of silence around Switzerland. That's where it's all come from. ISIS is Swiss, it's Octagon. Therefore, I can't put certain words like ISIS, Islamic State in the title here, as I had already a couple of videos deleted for glorifying a violent organization, for in fact only talking against violence and its various violence organizations. Damn FuckTube liars. So I guess I'll just call this video Abu Musab el-Swissi, Octagon's Islamofascism branch. Yeah, I mean, look at this guy here. This is another one. You know, we already had Marcel Christen, Thomas Marcel Christen. This one here, Daniel Demage from Switzerland. And they say he's one of the most dangerous terrorists, listed as one of the most dangerous ISIS members. Well, look, you can see in this guy's eyes, you know, look at them. You don't want to meet up this guy in some dark Arabic alley, eh, in the middle of the night, or even on daylight, you know. And how come we don't hear anything about this in the newspapers? You know, they're all Swiss. The most dangerous ones are all Swiss, Swiss, Swiss. Not a word about it, not on CNN or all the other broadcasting networks. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And why? Because this is Octagon, Nazi Templars. You know, they have all the head positions in ISIS. They're not Muslims. You know? It's ISIS, it's Templar, it's Octagon. ISIS is Octagon. So look here, another dangerous Swiss, Damien G. They all got Christian names. The other one was Daniel Demage. We got Thomas Marcel Christen. They're all Christians. You know, it's Octagon. They're all Swiss, the most dangerous ones. This one is called Abu Suleiman al-Swisri. Now look, another al-Swissi. It's full of al-Swissis here. And the Islamic State, ISIS, has been set up by the occult powers of the matriarchy and their Egyptian goddess, Isis. As I explained in my film here, called Confederation Helvetican, using man, raised by the hyena's milk of the matriarchy, and recreated through the Horus Matrix and death of their fathers through 2 world wars to be obedient servants for the goddess and her sisters of Isis, here explained in my older videos about the Horus Matrix. Like the aristocrat Baldur von Schirach, having 6-year-old boys in his Hitler youth from 1926 onwards, right after Hitler got financed in Switzerland 3 years before, brainwashing their innocence without their fathers, who were all dead, maimed or worn out after World War I. So when they were ready with these kids through the Horus Matrix in 1940, and 16 years later, they were like a pack of hyenas falling over the Europeans. Here you can read a little bit about this extremely dangerous man who really set up all the warriors, for the Second World War. They know how to do it. So here he is, this guy here, together with Hitler and Bormann. And two of his ancestors, from his mother's side, here were Thomas Hayward Jr. and Arthur Middleton. They were two signatories of the United States Declaration of Independence. Oh, so you guess what kind of family this is, eh? It's all Freemason aristocracy. Von Schirach, that's an aristocratic name. Probably von Scharach, yeah, or von Schar. It's completely pharaonic. And he only did 20 years in prison after the war, that's all. He probably never even was in it, eh? You know what I mean, eh? And he wrote a book like, Hitler did it all and I believed him, Come on. That's why the name ISIS, for the Islamic State, for the goddess Isis, it has nothing to do with Islam. It's just like men fighting each other for the goddess and the matriarchy. It has nothing to do with Islam. With, I don't know how many ISIS children today growing up in huge prison camps, ready for the new ISIS to rise up again soon. Even worse than the actual ISIS that has just been defeated, just waiting for their future orders by the Octagon. And this extremely dangerous Octagon, Abu Musab al-Swissi, is to be compared equally with Baldur von Schirach. The evil planners of Octagon moving children as on a Freemason checkerboard configuration, saying to each other, well, you never know when they come in handy. They will leave these children no chance at all to get away from the goddess Isis' grip and to go and kill the Arab patriarchy in the near future. Just as these defenseless German children had no chance at all to not get infested by the Nazi Templar brainwash and to go and fulfill the goddess and her matriarchy their will to kill the Jewish patriarchy. It's getting boring, Swissy, for you always use the same techniques again and again and again, and always on the children. Maybe find yourself a new technique now, Swissy, and leave the kids alone, because I'm telling the world what you're doing. It's all the same masters and their goddesses of the matriarchy fucking us all up, as in tits up, and using little children for their political goals. And the name Greta or Gretchen, it's a Swiss-German name. It's not German because it's together with Thunberg. Berg is a mountain in German, and Thun is a town in Swaziland, next to Bern. So Greta Thunberg, it's an entirely Swiss-German name. Hey, Swissy? So here it is, you see Thun here. Thun in the canton of Bern. It's a place in Switzerland, as in Greta Thunberg. And this was quite a creepy castle here. And this film is it's on my old channel, Gatzefratz. And this one is interesting as well. It's about the US presidency bloodline. I went to the castle of the ancestors of Laura Bush. And yeah, in the middle of this town, Thun, they got a mountain. While in Switzerland, the Swiss laugh about it when you call it a mountain for the obvious reasons, because it's not high enough. But considering other countries, in the middle of the town, they have a mountain. And there's also a castle. And this mountain, they call it Thunberg, which is not this castle. There are more castles. But this is an interesting film, and you can see the... yeah, I'll show you the other castle then in the center of town. So here you can see the castle of Thun. and it's on a mountain, a bag, Thunberg, Greta Thunberg. The whole thing is Swiss German, folks, and it's not a good thing using children for political aims. It's not good at all. It's very suspicious, you know. So you see a map of Switzerland. Here it is, Thun. Here is Bern. Kerzers, that's where the ancestry of Obama is from. Here is Grindelwald, lots of Americans going there, Interlaken, and the lake is called Thunersee, Lake Thun. And here it is, Thun, like Thunberg. In the middle of town, they got a little mountain called a berg, Thunberg. I had a video about it once. I had it on my channel, Gure, so FuckTube took it off. I filmed there, the castle there, but it's gone. Sorry about that. And the big bosses behind the screens is all goddesses, sisters of Isis, Swaziland, and the matriarchy. As here, the Greek Themis, who is in fact the pharaonic winged Ma'at goddess who brought you the 10 commandments, like don't be a naughty boy, you know, behave and be obedient, you know, obey our orders. And here you can see the square, but it's like in such an angle, you know, from this side, that it also shows the compass, 60 degrees here for the concept of 3. It's all here. They all read square and compass here, you know. Here, look, there's another one, you know, Themis. It's the same, yeah. There are thousands. I can't show it all to you, you know, you look it up yourself, you know. You see the 4 squares in here for the square, and in the middle is the circle, which stands for the compass. With a compass, you can make a circle. Concept of 3 and 4. There's probably more in it, you know. So they all read square and compass, you know. This is the enemy, people. Yeah, look, they transport valuables, you know, everything belongs to them. Time is luxury. Our masters, you know. Look here, the circle, and it's the square, and the concept of 4 here. Square and compass. Everything belongs to them, you know. And look, Paris, Geneva, of course Geneva, you know. The gene of Eve, right? Our masters. It's all about goddesses and the matriarchy. So man, don't fight each other for your sons, for the love of your sons. Don't fight each other. Stop all these wars. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. Eh? Don't believe the propaganda. Yeah, look, there's another one here. Yeah. There's the oval, that means all for one and one for all. You look here, the eye. Why do they give the dot on the eye a different color? Because there's a circle on one side and there's a square on the other side. It says square and compass. And they go into space, you know. That's where they probably come from. And they all know it, and you don't know it. And they're not going to tell you this in the newspapers or at school, at the university, or at CNN. Or your president is not going to tell you this either, you know. Only Homie Ross is going to tell you this. Okay, people, this is the last one. Otherwise, I'll be sitting here next week showing it all to you, you know. So you can see all the 3, for the concept of 3, there are 3 triangles. The triangle is the compass. It stands for the compass. There's a square in it. It says square and compass. And there's a T in it for the Tau symbol, as I filmed on that Templars commandery in Spain. And Themis, or Themises, sounds quite like the Carthaginian Tanit goddess for pharaoh spreading out in all directions. As there are equally various pharaonic killer Templars as Nazis, Islamic State, Praetorian Guard, the Shardana, the SAS, Marines, you name it. And then afterwards even have the balls, or whatever these she-males might have, to turn it around and proclaim that man and those bad males are all behind everything, while viciously using all the world's media to spread their lie strategy in this war against humanity. By the book, according to Adam and Steve and the snake of Pharaoh. And don't you think FuckTube and Pharaoh's authorities will ever do something against this hate speech, huh? How would it look like if men would start wearing pink t-shirts saying kill all them women, huh? What a sick world. Look carefully at the logo. I'll show you more about it later in this film and how it relates to Pharaoh's aristocracy. Take a mental screenshot of it. Or here, another goddess and pulling away example for the daughters of man, with squares and circles for the square and compass concept of 4 and 3. Here you can see the circle for the compass and a lot of squares in it. It says square and compass, just like here, it's a big circle here, a lot of squares in it, eh? And little red and white Swiss Templar choir boys. Here, look at them. Red and white Swiss choir boys. You know, it's a reference to the Knights Templars. As the song is Swiss made, entitled Look to Your Path. Oh, what's the Templar dude doing there? For Helligh Woods, Oscars 2013. And only a few weeks after the Swiss song Oscars in Swissy's Rudolf Steiner School of the Swiss capital, Bern, where my children were in, Swissy forced the children to swear the Freemason oath. With the Freemason skull of death, as in skull and bones, on the table of the Swiss SS Nazi Templars, as you can see in my older video here, after which I was forbidden to enter the school anymore. Well, she is a fantastic singer, it's incredible. Well, you know, it needs a good product to seduce us, well, into this here. The goddess singing, If I Were a Boy, creating she-males for the androgynous agenda, an unmistakably Templar's V on her black alien tunic, holding it all together, full of inverse triangles of death, as it is in Auschwitz. Look, it's all about killing Adam and the males for Pharaoh, with militarized little obedient Templar dudes this time, and this time to go and kill the Muslim patriarchy under complete domination of the goddess and her wannabe goddesses. You all remember this She-Male logo, which I asked you to remember before. Well, here it is again. The logo of the goddess, her space force, as in the space suits in the Wish I Were a Boy song, and the pink t-shirt, for bringing the goddess back to her planet, where she and her pharaohs with their aristocracy probably came from in the first place. As you can see in the Prince's Masonic monument by the Satanic House of Orange, which I filmed a couple of years back here in this video here. And there it is, by the servants of the goddess and sisters of Isis with their hate speech, incitements for murder, death and massive wars. And no problem at all for FuckTube and the authorities, because it's just a woman doing it. Therefore, the she-male sisters of Isis have the same sexual orientation as the Knights Templars and their Octagon Nazis. And how come all of this is possible in the middle of Arabia? Octagon Nazi Templars setting up an anti-Muslim force in the name of Islam, as in their name ISIS, the Islamic State? Well, because the Arabic nobility are in on it as well, like the Qatar banks of the Emirates from Emirats, an aristocratic title like a duke, the Swiss terror bank Al Taqwa, many Sunni sheikhs and sultans, and most of all, even Saladin or Salahuddin in Arabic, already being a Knights Templar, which I explain in this video here. So it's already since at least 1291 and the end of the Crusades, with 2 months later the founding of that Nazi Templar paradise in the Alps. That this Nazi-Muslim connection of the Islamofascism exists through the linking forces of the Knights Templars. Therefore, the continuing story of the Swiss Nazis and Octagon's great eminences like François Genoux and Hans Huber. You can see that in my film, The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. Therefore, continuing with the elusive Swiss Abu Musab al-Swissri, being the head of the Amniyat, Katiba Furgan, being responsible for all the big ISIS terrorist attacks abroad. And this al-Swissri, whom I like to call al-Swissi, is not even a Muslim, but pure Octagon Nazi Templar, and just fading in, doing his job, and then disappear, just as the Swiss Nazi Templars did in Germany to leash World War II upon us. Switzerland of the Octagon Nazi Templars is the true link of the Islamofascism, raping the true values of Islam into Swissies' advantage, getting extremely rich after each war they initiated, as in the Freemason slogan, Ordo ab chaos. Order in the Swiss banks after chaos and bloodshed in the world. And this here with the missile, it only happened last year in 2019. There's an incredible increase of Swiss crime and Swiss murder and weapons delta and Islamic State at the moment. The increase is, it's gonna get nasty, people. And no president in the world will ever do something against it, because they're all in the club of Freemasons in this New World Order horizontal rule Templar system, being the very reason no state authority ever reacted, as they're supposed to do, when I dropped 3 complaints against Swaziland and their plans at Boulogne-sur-Mer, Mende and Saint-Étienne, without even an answer of them. Neither any reaction on the tons of mails I sent to US authorities, who even had me arrested in Swaziland in 2009 for warning the American people. This is also why Freemason Trump terminated General Qasem Soleimani on the orders of the Octagon, because Soleimani knew about all this, I'm telling you, because I told him so, as I was in Iran and I used to give interviews in French on the Iranian IRIB radio, state radio. Now, why do you think Swissy took over diplomatic actions for the US to soften up Iran, and certainly greasing the wheels, as we say so? I'll tell you a lot more about that soon. By the way, they give secret messages through the red and blue ties, as you see here. A blue tie, as in the blue war crown of Pharaoh, means the person or politician wearing it is in favor for war. So I contacted German, English, French, American authorities, well, you name it, all of them, to warn them against the coming terrorist attacks coming up, because I was there when Swiss industrials of Octagon planned the coming attacks. No one ever responded, except for the Swiss Nazi police arresting me with several anti-terrorist squads and locking me up for 5.5 years. So the elusive Swiss terrorist Abu Musab al-Swissi is walking freely amongst us today, just like Hitler, Mengele, Bormann and all the others after the war, and all in Swaziland. With al-Swissi, without any doubt, even visiting Paris today. The logo of the Swiss Crypto AG forms several vertical rules of the old world order, being interrupted by one single horizontal rule of the new world order in the color red or orange on a white underground, as the cross of the Knights Templars is red on white, who made the new horizontal rule system and founded Swaziland in 1291, the oldest New World Order democracy in the world, democratically for Pharaoh's descendants of the worldwide aristocracy only. The Pera, or the big house, that is. Here you can see the big house. AG behind crypto means Aktiengesellschaft, which means a shareholders company, INC, Inc. in America for incorporated, or limited in England from public limited company or PLC. Well, who are the shareholders then? It's a letterbox company seated in Liechtenstein, a principality of Pharaoh's aristocracy, which means the stone of light. Again, the Stonesies like Larry Silverstein, Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Brian Epstein, Bernard Weinstein, a reference to Pharaoh's aristocracy, the stone builders, as the German word Stein, as in Liechtenstein, it means stone. The offices and factory of Crypto AG are in Zug. Here you can read it, Zug, Z-U-G, where just after 9/11, a Swiss victim of massive Swiss state authority terror looked up his tormentors and diminished them by 14. And his supporters, who thanked Friedrich Leibacher during a hockey match, got all rounded up and put in the slammer, and where organized crime gets full protection in the canton of Zug. Organized authority crime as by Crypto AG and its satellite perpetrators all around. This is the black heart controlling Europe and the United States, because the CIA, the main shareholder, belongs to the Swiss Nazi Templars, where Liechtenstein is one of the centers of the notorious octagon of the Knights Templars. Here you can see their flag with a crown in it. It's all aristocracy with an octagon here. Money, and it is about money here. The C is for crypto. The word crypto, as in the company's name Crypto AG, it means concealed or secret in Greek. Just as the artwork statue in Langley at the CIA's building is called Kryptos, as you can see here with a K. And here it says the sculpture has 4 encrypted messages, but only 3 of them have been decoded since its creation 30 years ago. Well, I know what the message is, and it's very easy. The message says that the CIA is a Freemason organization in the hands of the Nazi Templars from Switzerland, Le Refuge, or the hideout. Because it's a double encrypted message saying square and compass, the concept of 4 and the concept of 3. Of the 4 messages, only 3 were revealed. Of 3 for the side of the pyramid, which is visible to the eye, but 4 is invisible to the eye as being the base of a pyramid. And we don't know what's underneath, separated by the base, 4, separating the visible part of the pyramid above the sand from the inversed pyramid under the sand, therefore the pyramid of death. As in Auschwitz, because Freemasonry is a death cult, like the SS Totenkopfverbände, Skull and Bones. But you need to watch the Swiss Beast film to be initiated into the concepts of 3 and 4. It's all about numbers and secret words anyway. As you can see here back in Langley again, the Kryptos monument in front of the CIA building. And there are equally 4 parts to a Templar's cross that have each 3 corners, also referring to the pyramid, where the whole tricky bunch has crawled from underneath in the first place. So here you can see in all the video of mine, you just punch in the title here. You see there are 4 parts, and every part has three sides or three corners. The concept of four and the concept of three. That's why that's where the Cryptos monument, where it's all about. There were four riddles and they only found three. There you go. They never find the other one, the fourth one. And when I was still in the army, I heard them call each other Cistercians in action, a reference to the Nazi Templars of Octogon, who came out of the monastic Cistercian orders of Bernard de Clairvaux in Troyes, in France. You all see the Templars cross here. And remember this here, Soc Ist. It means Sacer Ordo Cisterciensis. It means the sacred order of the Cistercians. And you'll see it back in a moment. All the fleur de lis all over. This is where the Knights Templars come from. So remember this, S-O-C, Socist. It'll come back in a moment. Oh, look, there it is again, S-O-C. They say it means Special Operations Command, but it isn't. It means Sacer Ordo Cisterciensas Ordo Masonica, the Masons, and they come out of out of the Templars, and the Templars come out of the Cistercians. It's all there. And this is why you risk your neck for, for them, for some geostrategical war. Don't wage their wars for them. It's all about numbers and secrets. This is Sacer Ordo Cisterciensa Ordo Masonica, the sacred order of the Cistercians and the order of the Masons. And here's the top part of their crest. I couldn't get it all in one pic. You see the Templars cross. It says the order of Cistercians, Sacer Ordo Cisterciensis. The CIA was founded in 1946 by the ethnic Swiss General Eisenhower, the ethnic Swiss OSS Allen Dulles, and the ethnic Swiss J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI, which I all explain in my film The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. And the main objective of the CIA is to protect the Swiss Nazi Templar banks and all their accumulated wealth in the Alpine caves. So right in 1945 it needed Operation Paperclip to legalize the Nazi scientists like the war criminal Werner von Braun, who used Auschwitz laborers for his Templar V rockets, and also real Octagon members as General Reinhard Gehlen, whom you can see here in his Maltese order outfit, who was urged to found the German BND Secret Service, Bundesnachrichtendienst, and a CIA daughter on April the 1st, 1956. Now that's not a joke, I wish it was. April 1st. These two were the main shareholders, not very limited, of Crypto AG, which they bought in 1970 after they accidented Bo Hegelin, the owner's son, in the same year, who was against getting the company into the hands of the CIA, Cistercian Nazis. And with a broken father, the inventor of the cryptic machines, Boris Hegelin, an easy business was made buying the company of a disillusioned father. Swiss General Eisenhower became US President in the very same year. The Crypto AG was founded in 1952, which is not a coincidence at all. The CIA and all the other secret services were never meant to protect the citizens of their respective countries and persecute criminals, spies, and drug dealers. They're just there to eliminate the competition. As I call them, the Cocaine Import Agency in the icon of my other channel. The CIA is nothing else than Swissy's long arm of the Nazi Templars, who invented the banks, invented the check. Were the first multinationals in history and are just a bunch of robber barons with their Alibaba caves in the Alps. By the way, the notorious Templars treasure never went to Scotland and Roslin Chapel, but after it left the French port of La Rochelle with 18 ships, they sailed through the Strait of Gibraltar straight to their treasure island of Gallinara, which you can see here, in Liguria, Albenga, etymologically from the Latin word alba, for white, as in Albenga, which refers to the per or White House of the Templars' horizontal New World Order. So this is from one of my older videos from 2014 on my channel Gatse Frats. Here you can see the title. I had a lot more, but even Templar flags, which I've filmed recently on one of my other channels, I just can't find them anymore. And of course, there's a lot of it is lost because of deleted channel Gure. But this is the Templars' treasure island. This is where they went to. And from there on, from that island Gallinara, they traveled the Via Templare, still called the Templars Road today, to bring the treasure into Octogon of the Alps, because the road through France to the east was controlled by the French king, and therefore unsafe, whereas the seaways pretty safe, as the French king had barely any fleet, and from Albenga on through the mountains into Swaziland, all through Templar-controlled territories, no problem. Swissy. So here you can see an ancient Templars commandery, very old, which is situated on the Via Templare, next to Albenga. It's also an older video. Here is here's the title. You can punch it in so you can see it. So here we can see a Templars map. Here is La Rochelle. I mean, why go here to England and to Scotland? I mean, this is dangerous because of the British fleet. And you would never do that, eh? Because the Knights Templars, they were still fighting all the kings with whom they finally made a deal. That's why England is a constitutional monarchy. It's not a real monarchy. It's nothing to do, you know. The only real king was the King of France. So why take this dangerous road, you know, very risky, you know, very, it's a lot of wind and a lot of streams and you know, you don't do that, eh? Much easier, take the sunny way here, straight from here, tack, yeah? It gets real nice weather, you just go around Gibraltar, take the coastal line, or maybe not, and go here. Here you're quite near to Swaziland. It's about here. Here's Genoa, and here is Albenga with the Treasury Island. And you just do this little bit here, and you're in Swaziland, right here. Instead of going from here, it's all French king controlled territory. You never make it, especially with a heavy treasure, you know. You're not like a lightweight battalion. So you go around, because this is all safe. The waterways were all safe. The British king was here with his fleet. You don't want to go there. So you go here. Nobody here. Follow the coastal line. Pick a few fruits on the way. Again, scoreboot. And there you go. This is the way they took. All the rest is lies, you know, media lies, Hollywood lies, from books, you know. They want us to lure into the false stories as usual. And let me tell you, I know it's not a theory. I know that they went here. I'll tell you one day. So here it says La Rochelle. They didn't go up here, you know, a lot of storms, a lot of, you know. And the king, they went south into the sun. They went all around Spain and all that. Instead of, they could never go here to Switzerland through here. It's all, you know, territory by the king. And they made it next to Genoa, about here. It's called Albenga. The island is like here. And it was all Templars controlled territory. They went, all right, duck into Switzerland, especially here, Wallis, where most of the Pope's Guard, they're from this area here. It's called Wallis, yeah. And they controlled it all. It's really too bad I can't find it. It's one of my latest uploads on Central Intelligence Agency or on Homeland Security. I have the Templars flag in it of this town here. I just can't find it. And there's a lot of things that's gone missing on my channel Gure. NSA agent Edward Snowden was stationed in Geneva, Switzerland, and he leaked in 2013 that the NSA and CIA were allowed to use Swissy's Onyx spy satellite system by the Swiss NDB intelligence service from Bern, which I once filmed, but I can't show it to you anymore because it was on my channel Gure and it has been deleted. Snowden said that he had never seen a people more racist than the Swiss, who look down on everyone. They're rich, arrogant, and class conscious, he said. Why the name Onyx? Well, Onyx is black, and all these names are Pharaoh, Freemason, Rome related. And the demotic pharaonic name for black is Kem, from Kemet, the pharaonic word for Egypt. And onyx is a black stone referring to the underworld. Therefore, most statues of Anubis are in black onyx. So Kemet for ancient Egypt means the black lands, referring to the lands around River Nile, as the black water in Switzerland called Schwarzwasser, or the contractor killer company for Templar geostrategical wars for the Nazi Templar multinationals called Blackwater, founded by a guy called a prince, another prince of darkness. Now, Blackwater is just another name for Egypt. I filmed Blackwater, Switzerland once in one of my older films, but I think it's gone with the rest. It's the conglomerate of the Per-A, or Big House of Pharaoh, and a better name would be Assassin's Creed. Although Creed, their belief system, believing in money and power, absolutely fits in. And they know who they are. Therefore this film here, with the Templars V here in it, are masters. One cannot see the crypto case either without referring to Onyx, Edward Snowden, the Templars, Rome, the Black Lands, and so forth. So when the CIA, NSA, BND, Crypto AG, and the Swiss steal information everywhere from everyone on the globe for 50 years, nothing happens. But when someone like Assange only publishes some intel that he didn't steal, but was given to him for free, he gets destroyed, tortured, dragged in the mud, discredited, criminalized, and sentenced to 175 years in prison, wishing it were only 20 years. This is the difference between master and slaves, Pharaoh and Germanic tribes, Swiss and Europeans. We're fucked, folks, and the 10 commandments of Pharaoh are not gonna help you or your children. You see the Oscars here and all the downward and the inverse and pyramids just on the Louvre or on the wall here are masters. Or here, you see all the Templars V's here? This is not the pyramid, because the angle is more like the V. The pyramid would be like this. It's a Templars V of our masters, or like this is of course the Oscars, you know, like the other pic like before as well. Conditioning the slaves, eh? Most so-called Christians love playing the Pope's Inquisition with me by sending me threats, because I blasphemed by saying that Christianity didn't work out. criticizing the results only, but not the religion itself, you dumb slaves. You religious freaks and your threats only make me more angry than I already was. So, I say once again for all you Bible bangers who send me threat mails, Christianity is a good idea and a fine religion. Unfortunately, it never had any true followers over the last 2000 years. It's a historical fact that Christians are the biggest killers throughout history. 2 world wars, numerous religious wars like the 30-Year War, the Inquisition, numerous Christian genocides on Indians, Jews, Bushmen, Aborigines, etc. Christianity was raped by the Christians themselves over and over again. And the more threats you send me, the more I will repeat this. Christianity was raped by the Christians. I love the Bible, which is a fantastic book, especially the book of Revelations. But I'm done with you Christians. Go on, send me more threats. After all I've revealed to you about the 666, the beast with 7 heads of the Alps, the Sea of Peoples, into which Pharaoh disappeared, the Templar banks of Switzerland and Whore of Babylon, with which all nations traded. You just stab me in the back, you traitors. I'll reveal one more thing, and then I will stop. Go to hell, all of you. In Daniel and the book of Revelation it says that the beast has the skin of a leopard, with dots on it, as leopards are marked, the feet of a bear, the mouth of a lion, and the power by the dragon. All this fits on the hyena. And symbol of Rome, with Remus and Romulus, which I explain in this video here, so I'm not going to repeat it all, because I don't feel like telling you traitors and backstabbers much more really, but I have to. A hyena is skin marked, as a leopard is, called the spotted hyena. And because of its unique matriarchal rulership empowered by the dragon, because God is a man and not some dragon goddess like Hel, Vatican or Isis, through which we had 2 world wars of the Horus Matrix. All God's creation should be male-led and not by some hyena-adoring pink list killers. And to make things worse, hyena females have a dick, have more testosterone, and are larger than the males. This is not a joke, really. Does that sound familiar to you? Like today's tendency of gender benders walking around in pink t-shirts saying, "Kill the patriarchy." Therefore, the equally perverted Etruscans of pharaonic descent made children in orgies, like snakes do, with sons not knowing who their fathers were, like today's fathers having their sons kidnapped forever when divorced. Therefore, Rome took the hyena for symbol, with boys milked by the goddess, who probably created the hyena as well, of which all Africans believe that hyenas have demons. Here, the spotted hyena and the symbol of Rome has the skin of a leopard, the mouth of a lion, and the feet of a bear. Here, look, it's a completely different color. It's brown, like a bear. You know, it's like socks. It's all mixed together like. And here's the leopard, and this is a very big mouth. It has the biggest crunching power in the world of all these animals. Then today's Rome is Swaziland, the whore of Babylon and her banks, her CIA, her crypto leaks, her persecution of saints like Assange and others, the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, Promindex Papers, Rubicon, Minerva, you name it. And you better not be a man in Swaziland, I tell you, it sucks. Oh, here it is, yeah. with the skin of a leopard, the mouth of a lion, the feet of a bear, and the dick of a or whatever. And in Daniel 7:6 it says about that same end times beast that it has 4 wings of a fowl. Swaziland has 4 languages with which the Swiss beast can fly in 4 wind directions and do harm to the Germans to the north through 30-year war and 2 world wars. French to harm the French to the west, 2 world wars. French Revolution, Paris terrorist attacks by Abu Musab al-Swisri. Italian to harm the Italians by teaching Mussolini and bring havoc over Italy by the Svizzera Fascisti. And Romanche to the east. And the fowl, as in concerning the 4 wings of a fowl on the beach, is a domesticated, harmless-looking bird, like the harmless-looking Swiss, of which the Freemasons say a chicken is not a bird and a woman is not a human, because it's a Mason fraternity out of the Templars Brotherhood. So you women, why do you collaborate with them against your man, your fathers, your brothers, and against your own sons through the Horus Matrix? Kill the patriarchy, huh? You want to be strong as a hyena, hey? But you cannot. You're just birdie needs a nest. So this thing here is called the Distinguished Intelligence Cross of the CIA. You get it after a couple of years in the CIA and when you got a lot of money in and killed a lot of people. You all see the Swiss cross here behind it, eh? It's not a joke, people. And the circle is the concept of 3, and here are 4 things. Here is the concept of 4. It's a square and compass. So the hyena represents Rome, and today's Rome is Swaziland and their Templars Swiss Guard owning the Vatican, just as Swissy owns the CIA and NSA, thus coming back to Crypto AG and Operation Rubicon. Operation Rubicon was the CIA's plan to buy Crypto AG and to put a secret backdoor beforehand in the encrypting machines, so Swissy Nazi Templar and their CIA could read all the mail, not to target any other governments, because all governments in the world is them, New World Order Pharaoh aristocracy, but to spy on companies and on the slaves, of course. And this is why in the logo here on the floor, you've got the 4 wings of the beast. This is going to Germany, the languages of Swaziland. This is going to Germany, the 30-year war, 2 world wars. This is going to France here to the west. This is going to Italy, and this is Romanche to the east. And this is all out of the time of the Knights Templars, because the CIA is Octagon. I made a video once about it, which was called Octagon Rules Over Pentagon. It's gone. It was on Gure, and they took it off. It's gone. We had 2 house searches. They stole everything. The Swiss Gestapo. These videos are gone forever. Yeah. So this is what it means, eh? This is Swaziland, the 4 languages. I mean, it's not natural. In one country, they speak 4 languages. It's not natural. And there's one in the north here, German, in the west, France, and in the south, it's Italian, and to the east is here. It's not natural. These things don't come natural. And it's all Swiss, folks. It belongs to the Swiss. The CIA is only there to defend the financial interests of the elite and to eliminate any potential competition by the slaves, because the Knights Templars were just a multinational Swiss robber organization, and there's no secret intelligence agency in the world that has another secret intelligence agency from another part of the world as their enemy. That was all made up by Hollywood and their 007 fairy tales to entertain the slave race and their days off working for the masters. And here you can see it again, the four. This is the Distinguished Career Intelligence Medal. And you get it after a couple of years working for them, right? So the circle is the compass, and here are the four wind direction, the concept of four. So it says square and compass, of course. And the wings, like they're going like this and then like this. These are the Isis horns here in the middle. And the wings are always the wings of Ma'at, of course. The goddess. All goddesses in Egypt and Helvetican and Freemasonry. The CIA is Octagon. I also made another film about this. It's also gone. So do copy my videos. It's free anyway. It's my present to you, okay? The name Rubicon as code word for the operation is a reference to the Italian river, where in 49 BC, the mass genocider Caesar crossed the Italian river Rubicon into the goal of the Celts, killing them almost all. So here's the town of Rome, and here's the Rubicon, and this here's the goal. So the code word Rubicon means that Swiss Operation Rubicon is a further conquest of Rome by today's Rome in the Alps and their CIA Cistercians in action against all other non-Cistercian New World Order Templars. So here you can read it again. Operation Rubicon, like the river in Italy, Caesar. It's the Roman expansion. Well, it says here spy versus spy, which is of course not true. It's spy versus the people. Well, this is the newspaper. The mainstream or whatever. So forget about this, eh? Just Operation Rubicon, CIA, north, west, south, all wind directions, like the river, like what Caesar did. Eh? Caesar, he went north and to the west, and the east, to the south. Well, they came from the south actually, all pharaohs, which I'm going to show you a little bit more here. Look, this is a more than 2,000-year-old, probably gold coin, which Caesar had himself made. Now, why do you think it's separated? Tsar. Well, you all know now that Tsar, it means the king, pharaoh. And C, it shouldn't be pronounced C, but it should be pronounced Ka. Ka, Tsar. It means the soul of the kings. So Caesar, it was not only one Caesar, it was all these pharaohs. I mean, the soul of kings, of Pharaoh. That's why there's here the Isis horns. And here too, Isis has this on her head. With this here, the sun in the middle. And now the sun is here and here. And it's again the inversed stuff, As above, so below. It's all inverse talk and all that. And here's also like the sun. Isis. It's all pharaonic. So the Khazars, it's from this. Ka-sar. The Khazars. It's all Roman stuff. It's pharaonic, I mean. And the Khazars, I mean, the Romans, they put them there, the pharaonic kings, the soul of the king. This is the enemy. And today's Khazar, with their special cephalic head forms, I made a video about it. I don't know if it's still there, actually. In Switzerland, they have a completely different cephalic head form, right? Yeah, the Khazars, right? The encoded CIA name of the Crypto AG encryption company is Minerva, who is the Roman and Etruscan goddess of strategic warfare, portrayed with an owl. which is therefore a Freemasonic symbol, as in warfare on humanity. The Swiss government knew about the CIA having rigged and bought the crypto company, because I have a file on it, simply called Code, which has disappeared this year. Oh, how convenient, Swissy! All code names actually are Roman, Egyptian, Masonic, just as Swaziland, already the new Rome. When the Theban legion, with the commander Saint Maurice, born and raised in ancient Egypt, invaded and settled down in Swaziland in the 3rd century, which is nearly 2000 years ago already. So here's the title of the film. Go and see that. It's on my other channel. In 1992, a Swiss working for Crypto AG, codenamed Minerva for Crypto AG, got arrested in Iran because the Iranians understood the not very encrypted machines were rigged. And guess what the code name for Hans Bühler became? Hydra. The mythological Hydra, which is a water serpent with multiple heads, like in the end times beast and the 7 heads of state of Swaziland. And if you cut one of the heads off, a new one will grow, referring to the New World Order horizontal rule by many of them. And also that Hans Bühler, the crypto employee, codenamed Hydra, he was expendable. So if the Ayatollah in Iran would cut Hans Bühler's head off, a new one would grow back by simply replacing him with another employee. And if the Ayatollahs would have cut Hans Bühler's head off, that would have just been Bühler's day off for the Hydra. No more and no more and no less. This also means that the Hydra, with many replaceable heads of the Book of Revelation, is the New World Order, horizontal rule, with Swaziland being the first New World Order in history in 1291, with 7 replaceable heads of state. Oh look, there he is again, it grew back. But what's he doing here, with Dirty Dick here in 1989, as if they were part of one big happy family, the pharaonic Per A, or Big House, of worldwide pharaohs, a true Hydra. And look here, the thumb here, Dirty Dick is giving him the Freemason thumb here, on the part of his hand between the index finger and the thumb here, look, chook, now there you go. One big happy family, eh? Per A, like Per Mindex, the house of Mindex and Permindex papers, or Permindex papers, meaning that Per Mindex is a worldwide organization of Pharaoh. You see the 2 pyramids and they're forming an M for the masons or mold. And this is like a house, you know, the Per A. And in fact, I found a couple of companies worldwide that all have the double pyramid logo, but entirely different companies in different places with the name Per Mindex. The 1960 Permindex papers talk about a CIA money laundering front company. And I guess, needless to say where they were based, Swissy? Yes, in Basel, Swaziland, probably right next to the Bank of International Settlements, the BIS, the horrendous Nazi Templar bank of Adolf Hitler. Well, this is what Templars are about. Multinational money making, and then sell it to us as something holy. So those excellent but stupid Germanic warrior tribes do the fighting for these satanic Nazi Templar pinkless killers. The Permindex company was run by a Canadian called Louis Bloomfield, who also was the president of Heineken Beers, with the motto of French Sun King on their bottles that nobody ever has been able to translate, or rather interpret so far. And people are still trying. Nec pluribus impar, translated by not unequal to many, which you may understand only if you have seen my film The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. So here it says on the beer, nec pluribus impar. And here there are 4 leaves, probably acacia, the concept of 4. And here there are 3 spoons or whatever sticking into the barrel, the concept of 3. So everybody who is initiated, they read immediately square and compass. Next to it is also the concept of 4. And it looks like there's a triangle here behind it, you see? And then, anyway, the thing is round, which is like for the compass, eh? I mean, why this on a beer, eh? It's not a French beer, is it? Well, I'll explain you what it means. So here you can see the French Sun King, Louis XIV, who said nec pluribus impar. And as a house of Saint Croix du Plessis in South Africa had always maintained our royalist loyalty to the King of France, it had already been passed on to me as a child by my private French teacher. And I also had one for German and some more lingos. Nec pluribus impar, not unequal, is twice a denial or double negation by not and un concerning equal, which would automatically lead to an affirmatory sense to the word equal, so leading one into the meaning of equal to many, which is one of the trilateral mottos of the revolution, as in liberty, equality, fraternity. And yes, therefore the trilateral commission, same thing really. And to understand nec pluribus impar, for not unequal to many, you must visualize the Mason Templar facies of the Republic and the horizontal rule for uno pro omnibus, omnes pro uno, one for all and all for one, which you can see here, where all branches of the facies seem equal. Here, all the branches here in the middle, right? But the French king didn't want to give in to the New World Order horizontal rule. So he needed to say equal to many as being one of those branches, and therefore said instead not unequal to many, which leaves yet a door open for another possibility other than a king being equal to the rest. Like, you know, one of the branches is the king. Well, he didn't want to, eh? And at least he didn't say what they forced him to say. Well, which probably saved him his neck, which they then took 2 louis later. But the French Revolution was just a transition from the old world order of the royalists to the horizontal new world order of the republicans. So you must watch that film I told you before, because I can't possibly repeat it all the time. But equal to many would be describing the meaning precisely, whereas the double negation circumscribes it into not unequal to many, leaving a lot of other options open by just saying anything but unequal to many. Like being forced to be equal to many by the all-powerful Freemasons Templar Club, thus making both parties, Royalist and Republican, happy by circumscribing his allegiance, getting possibly interpreted both ways. So when I visited the Sun King's Star Fort, seeing all the octagons by his military architect Marquis de Vauban, here in this film here, I saw the New World Order horizontal rule pushing the king everywhere by the forms and shapes chosen by his famous Freemason engineer. You see the title, you can just punch it in. So the equal to many is a reference to the unavoidable equality amongst aristocrats through the revolution, which happened only 70 years after his death. Louis XIV is still the longest serving monarch with 72 years of kingship. So this means that Heineken Beer, the CIA, Permindex, the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, etc., they all understood the highly complex internal war by using nec pluribus impar as a trophy of their victory, so to speak, and then get drunk of victory with that beer. The slaves don't know absolutely anything about this all, but I'll reveal it to you all, because they drove it too far, and that their arrogance may fall. The Sun King, Louis XIV, like adoring Amun-Ra, the sun god, had a daughter, whose name was Louise de Maison Blanche, meaning Louise of the White House, which stands for Upper Egypt, the Perhet. We're being ruled by Pharaoh, you slaves, who have their Templar money base full of caves and CIA front businesses in the Alps. You see here, this is also the Duchess of Louise Françoise, one of the children of King Louis XIV in the 17th century. I mean, why do they want to be Cleopatra in the 17th century? I mean, there was no TV, there was no magazines, no... How did they get the idea in the 17th century to be Cleopatra? Eh? Well, it's the same, it's the descendants of them. With Permindex Basel, the CIA made a lot of money. They made millions with Crypto AG selling rigged machines to the whole world, which they invested in Black Ops, and in financing the Onyx satellite telecommunications interception program in the motherland in the Alps, on 3 places, Leuk, Heimenschwand and Zimmerwald, Swiss specialists in neutrality swindle, just like their Knights Templars Holy Jerusalem swindle. So you better not use the so-called encrypted proton mail, folks, because proton mail is by CERN, Switzerland, and all internet intel goes directly to the CIA and NSA. Same system as Crypto AG. Same system as a secret Swiss bank account, so they can kill you and your family, because it's secret anyway, right? Nobody knows there was any money, or to whom it belonged to. Well, Switzerland is the whore of Babylon, and all nations traded with her. What are you gonna do about Switzerland and Crypto AG, Donald? Nothing? I knew that for sure. Well, will you let us do something about that ourselves then, and liberate Assange at the same time? Oh, really? Is that so, huh? You heard what he just said? Now, there's crypto, meaning secret or hidden. And in World War II, there was Enigma, meaning a mystery and also an encrypting machine. And trust me, I like to keep things hidden, if you understand what I'm getting at. And I can tell you some more tales from the crypt. Well, the Templars crypt of the Priory of Sion and their elders in the Alps. Okay, well, they steal from America through tax evasion going to Switzerland. So Switzerland is definitely not a shithole country. They're the richest in the world. There are just 2 types of people, the haves and the haves not. Okay, silence, Donald. Enough. You don't fool me. Right after your impeachment victory, you literally said in your speech you're so honest. But yet I see you having a good time with Dirty Dick here in 1989. Well, what does an honest man has to do with Richard Nixon, the biggest crook of all? Don't do honest people avoid crooks, and certainly don't laugh together? Well, that's just theatrical integrity, Donald. The last but not least, people, ask yourself why all of a sudden Pharaoh's media talk about the crypto CIA scandal. And we all know, especially after 9/11, that the media are vicious liars. Already in 1989, the crypto AG scandal was known, and Swiss heads of state like Kaspar Williger and Arnold Koller of the 7 heads of the beast, they knew about it. So why, 30 years later, the universal media liars come up with this story all of a sudden? And why they reveal stuff from the motherland in the Alps, whereas normally there are the laws of silence around Swaziland? And why the media horse won't tell us how many people got killed and tortured because of crypto AG and the CIA intercepting all satellite and cryptic intel. Anyway, the prostitutes, as usual, show innocent Switzerland as a victim of these brutal Americans and their CIA, probably to give Swissy the chance to write another Berger report to camouflage their crimes against humanity, just as after World War II. Hey, Swissy. So once again, it's all Swiss. Crypto AG, Onyx, CIA, NSA, Permindex, and so on and so forth. Swaziland is the whore of Babylon with whom all nations traded, the beast of the Alps. And no more real man left to do something about it.
Yesterday, someone sent me a video by some American ethnologist, anthropologist, saying that the notorious Vatican has its name from the Etruscan goddess Vatica of the underworld, which is a fantastic discovery by the good man. Which was in fact not entirely his discovery, as this British video from 2017 proves. But hey, that's what YouTube is about, and to work together and add more each time. Only I believe, for honesty's sake, a certain ethics should be maintained for fraternity's sake, instead of just chasing the ego in the system's rat race of Pharaoh.
Now, when I saw the picture of the goddess Vatica, it opened up a vortex, seeing a whole sequence of stuff portraying in front of my eyes, which I always have when connecting to ancient Egypt. A phenomenon I can't entirely explain where that comes from, but it happens to me, and it's not only because I'm a historian and academic, but more related to my ancestry of the house of Saint Croix du Plessis. I'll better not go and see Bob Larson and have it cleaned out for a reboot called Exorcism, because then you wouldn't have these videos anymore. I guess having ancestral demons also has a good side, as long as you control them and not them controlling you. Anyway, at least I do something against the forces of darkness, instead of all those lethargic, dogmatic Christians and Muslims sitting on their Bibles who don't serve God but only pray that God serves them. Okay, I'm drifting off again. That was not I wanted to tell you. Well, the moment I saw the picture of the goddess Vatica, like Vatican without an N, something sucked me in, shloop, and I started seeing the whole sequence passing in front of my radar. My grandmother in South Africa had the same, like our prophet Sina van Rensburg. It's an Afrikaans word, sina, and it sounds in English like sinner, but it's more the opposite, I can tell you. And my grandmother had the same name as that poor South African child here, starved to death in Lord Kitchener's and Lord Winston Churchill's concentration camps in the SA, South Africa that is, killing 28,000 defenseless white Christian children. In aristocracy's concentration camps of Pharaoh. Well, that's why, and because of the pious Huguenot atmosphere among the Afrikaner nation in the SA, we are friends with the Jews, because we know who the enemy is, and those lords slaughtering our babies to win the Boer War and get the gold mines. Later in life, Grandma Lizzie told me about Sina, and that she had it too, telling me many other things about it, which I can't all tell you now. Only that always skips one generation. So me mum didn't have it. And that always predicted visits beforehand, which I can't even remember for my very young age at the time. Grandma said it manifests only twice in life. First when very young, and secondly at the end. And it did come back. Grandma was right. A generational curse, as Bob Larson would say. Oh, I want to hold on to the adorable little intrinsic beast, Bob, and only use it for the better. Good for hacking the devil back, like having a spy infiltrated amongst the powers of evil, enabling to understand, acknowledge, and comprehend, in order to find the adequate spot to strike back. In spite of the Boer language and the Boers' Flemish names, we are majoritively French Huguenots escaping the Vatican's butchery, genociding us in Saint Bartholomew's night and day in 1572. Thus, coming back to the goddess Vatica and her Vatican dedicated to her through Maria worship, substituting God. And of course, Vatica of the Etruscans is one of the various representations of the Egyptian goddess Isis, as the Etruscans had all the Egyptian gods in their pantheon of Pharaoh. Now, just a simple but very effective question. Why are there several Roman emperors on this list of pharaohs? Well, the answer, because Rome is the chronicle extension of Pharaoh, bringing his soldiers and slaves from Egypt with them, becoming the Italians, and nearest place in Europe, after having crossed the dip from Egypt, and genociding Europe to this very day, and still going on. Rome didn't conquer Egypt, but Egypt conquered Rome, or more exactly, Egypt made Rome through the pharaonic Etruscans. And this is also why we find the Egyptian word Sar for king or pharaoh in the word Sardinia, following the pharaonic conquest of Europe and Pharaoh's original slaves, now called Italians. Because Pharaoh's personal bodyguards, called the Sherden, Shardana, or simply the Shards from Sar, and for the Tsar, or Tsar, King Pharaoh, first came to Sardinia in their conquest of the free tribes of Europe. As you can read here for yourself, just punch pause in Wikipedia about the Shardana, the Sherduna, the Shards, it's all here. And there are even Egyptian hieroglyphs showing these fellows here, as you can see here. Members of Ramses II's Sherden personal guard in a relief in Abu Simbel. Okay. So therefore, having the all-seeing eye during a light show, as in Illuminati, illuminated light, in Pharaoh's object here in London called the Shard, Pharaoh's guard or shard in Demotic, which almost sounds like guard, shard, guard. If you'd imagine an old pharaonic mummy with no more teeth in his mouth, getting satanically resurrected out of his grave, pronouncing God slightly different, like Shrard, because of his missing teeth, and using another word from the mummy's mumbling, I'm the good Shard of London, looking over my dumb British slaves. So I had to go back in history to explain who's persecuting who and where are the big armies from who are killing people all over. So coming back to the Huguenots then. Many researchers don't know what happened to the numerous French Huguenot Protestants and dissident aristocracy in France, because there are no further historical signs of more massacres by Vatica and her Vatican on the Huguenots in France, as the Bartholomew Night of 1572 in Paris and the weeks that followed, they just vanished. Where did they go? What happened to the rest? Well, they escaped as far as they could to the lowlands and Germany, changing names and language to get off Vatica's radar. But Vatica and her Vatican gang got track of them, and pursued them with huge armies of Swiss Guard mercenaries of the Vatican gang by Vatica, called Helvetica of Swaziland, culminating only 46 years later into the most horrendous 30-year war from 1618 to 1648, leaving 20 million Germans dead as a result of Octagon's murderous Swiss mercenaries. A Swiss precision job with the collateral damage of at least 30 million dead Europeans, most of them Germans, and the escaping French Huguenots on German territory chased by the beast and the Swiss breathing into their necks of the desperate French Protestants trying to save their children from the Swiss beast, base of Vatica, Helvetica, Suis, the Sisters of Isis, or Sœurs d'Isis, Suis in French. My ancestors were running for their lives and souls back then, until a raging Dutch fleet sank all the Spanish and Portuguese ships of the conquistadores with the Templars cross on it and full of Inca and Maya gold to pay the Swiss mercenaries of Helvetica with, and that was the end of the war. When the rest of the Germans got saved by the Dutch and the remarkable Admiral Michiel de Ruyter, for which the satanic House of Orange had the good Admiral terrorized, tortured and murdered. The Admiral who saved Europe and what was left of the few remaining French Huguenots. This is a fantastic video, go and see it. So only 4 years after the 30-year war, South Africa could be founded by Jan van Riebeeck in 1652 at Cape of Good Hope. Well, Good Hope for those persecuted French Huguenots. By the time having Dutch, Flemish and German names and speaking Dutch or German, just wanting to go as far as possible from Vatica and Helvetica and Vatica Swiss Guard, or a guard to the temple of Vatica, as in the film The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. And well, you can read the whole thing here yourself, it's quite interesting. And here you can read it here. The French Protestants, on the other hand, who had fled because of religious persecution, mostly belonged to the bourgeoisie, and what's more, a quarter of them even had typically aristocratic names, judging from the passengers' lists. This is why the Afrikaner Boers are very different from the Dutch. We don't like homosexuality. We like our guns, and we don't hate the Jews and do not collaborate with the Nazis. There have been even books written like South Africa was made by the French, as you can read here in French. Huguenots et Français ont fait l'Afrique du Sud. How do I know all this? Because in the family we wrote things down for future generations, as our house has a history and a tradition. So anybody who doesn't write things down doesn't have a history. It's like they never existed at all. So when I saw that picture of Vadiga, I suffered an unexplainable shock, getting shell-shocked by the powers opening up the vortex, blasted away by the red and white squares on Vatika's forehead, red and white Templars' colors of their hideout in the Alps, referring to Pharaoh's red and white house, the double square concept of 4, doubling up to 8 for octagon, the square base of a pyramid by the holy number 7 of Pharaoh, of square plus compass. Therefore the triangle concept on a forehead of 3, referring to the compass, for the accumulated tradition of the 7, all explained in my film, in my Swiss Beast video. And the car, or the physical soul and intrinsic life energy of the pharaohs, in the name Vati-Ka, or Helveti-Ka for Swaziland. And you can see the symbol down below with the arms and the hands stretched out to the sides, just as Freemasons do. I can tell you what that all means, but that will take too long because this video is about something else. So here you can see an old pharaonic depiction of the Ka symbol. And it shows, of course, 2 times the square, you know, for the square and compass, right? And here you can read a part of the Ka statue here in Wikipedia. Just punch pause and have great fun. Okay, there we go. We can see the Ka sign here, like moving the hands up and down like this, as you can see in the pic. And it means, you know, like it's a help sign, you know, please help me. If there's another Freemason around, you have to help me, you know. And otherwise Satan will punish you because I'm one of you. I'm also a pharaoh. So they use this in court, in politics, in business, you know, like giving away their real identity. And it means, "O Lord, my God, is there no help for the widow's son?" So who's the widow? That's Isis, or Vetika, of course, Vetika. And the widow's son is Horus and the Horus matrix. You know, these are the ones, are masters who rule over us, and their base is Swaziland in the Alps, Helvetica. And if I'd have my demotic books around me, I could translate the rest of her name into Pharaoh's language as well, telling you what her name represents. Alas, incredibly organized, focused Swiss terror hindering my mission. And as you can witness here, they perfectly know it, making fun out of us here with all these sort of things. There are tons of things like this, Helvetica, the initiated and Swissy. They know perfectly well what it all means and what they did. You know, they're very precise in the denial, but they're not very precise in the admittance of their crimes, you see. And they're just laughing at us here, you know. And it's all over. There are tons of things like this. They portray their country as neutral, never done anything, and clean, nice snowy mountains. It's not at all like that. It's the Swiss beast, home of the devil. You see, there are even companies here, like here, called Vatica, you know, with the Templars V at the end. Can you see it? Hey? They're doing design, apparently. They know it perfectly well. It's the goddess of the underworld. It's Helvetica. Do you want me to tell you where this company is from? Hey? Well, have a guess. Oh, yeah, look, they're from Lucerne. Lucerne is in Switzerland. It's also one of the low-tax cantons. And what did they do? It says here, Strategieentwicklung, strategic design. like Tavistock. It has the same words in it. It's Tavistock, Tavi, Vatica, right? Same letters in it. Amongst historians, it's common knowledge that the Roman Empire was founded by the Etruscans and the pharaonic pantheon of the gods, mostly with other names like Vatica here for Isis. And here you can see, the Romulus was the first of 7 Etruscan kings, just as Swaziland has 7 heads of state. And here you can see the beast, the Swiss beast. And to rule in those days very superstitious and pagan peoples and various tribes under the Roman Empire, the pharaonic Vatica gang decided to found a Roman state religion through the invisible belief system, always overhead to watch you under all circumstances, as they knew the Roman Empire couldn't be there all the time to police the people, as today in the all-seeing eye total control system. And this is from the 4th century. It's from Germany. It's Germanic. And you see the angel looking at the left, above left, always looking. It sees everything. It sees the Germanic warrior here, trying to kill the lion, which is a symbol of the aristocracy, as the snake is. They're both symbols of the aristocracy, and of Pharaoh, as the Pharaoh is having a snake on his head, and the Sphinx, which is what their descendants, the aristocracy, took over in their coat of arms, where there's always a lion. So the person who made this drawing from the 4th century, that's a hell of a long time, a Helvetic long time ago, knew perfectly well, who that this Germanic warrior, actually just before, if it's from the 4th century, in the 5th century, so just a little bit after, the Vandals and the Germanic tribes, they ransacked Rome. Rome is the lion and the snake. What came after Pharaoh and which became the aristocracy. So this is an initiated person who made this. And look at the hand, coming out of the sky like, "Oh, we see it all. Well, you better watch out, homie. And, don't kill our snakes. Don't kill our lions, because we see everything. It's the all-seeing eye in the sky. You cannot do anything without us knowing it." Therefore, today, not needing the invisible hand in the sky over us anymore, as we have seen the state church disappearing into oblivion, merely merging into a relics of the pantheon of the gods of Egypt, raping our children on the altar of the goddess, Vatica for Isis, also helping our women to dominate the man in their alliance with Pharaoh through the aristocratic practice of the jus prime noctis, as the police can't be present all day, so letting the man believe since childhood, "Oh, be careful, or God will punish you. He sees it all with his all-seeing eye on every church. And now the women doing the work for him to police us all." We had 2 world wars with millions of men dead, trying to defend their women as they thought to do, for getting this here. And now women even portray themselves as victims, but they never died by the millions. The men tried to save them and protect them. Well, they didn't know very much about the enemy within. So it's all divide and rule. Pharaoh is putting everyone up against each other. It says roses are red, violets are blue, I love smashing the patriarchy with you. It's already smashed. All the men are dead. There's only soy boys left, eh? What do you think the red rose means, eh? It's a symbol for the red house of Pharaoh, the Pertasser, the old world's order. As I told you, it's the jus prime noctis behind it, where the women made an alliance, like Adam and Eve. They made an alliance with the lord of the castle. They got raped in the castle on the first night of their marriage, and the women who didn't like that, they got burned at the stakes. That's the reason. And the other ones, as a woman is pragmatic, a little bird needs a nest with warmth and enough to eat, all provided by the system we have today, where our liberties are being traded by all the comfort we have. They bought our liberty, our freedom, with comfort. So she said, it wasn't bad after all. In the beginning it was a bit hard, maybe, but it was a prince after all, and afterwards it went smoothly, eh? And I had a good meal, a bit of wine, could take a bath. So these two made an alliance, just like all these priests killing the children, making an alliance. The demons, they get inside, as Bob Larson says, and he's perfectly right about it. I can rant on about this forever and ever, but okay, this film is not about that. Well, isn't it? Or is it? Vatica, Helvetica, the Sisters of Isis, Swiss Sœurs d'Isis. So the Vatican is in fact a pharaonic state religion adoring Isis or Pharaoh, or Vatica, Helvetica, the Sisters of Isis. So this is really the essence of Adam and Eve, and the Pharaoh had a snake on his head. It's a snake. And the lion, which we just saw. And now women betraying us, helping the snake, right? Therefore, the original pharaonic obelisk in the Vatican's backyard, symbolizing a male sexual organ with the penis of Osiris in a child's backyard. He seems to be saying, and he is saying, like, "Hail Egypt! Hail Pharaoh! Hail our Swiss god of Helvetica!" Well, you go explain that to all the 9-year-olds raped by the Church of Wickedness and its invisible pharaonic powers in the sky, eyeballing us, or as they say, all-seeing eyeballing us, and their invisible pharaonic obelisk taking our children in their backyards at an equally invisible moment. Therefore, Vatica's obelisk standing in the Vatican's backyard. Hail Pharaoh, hail Egypt, and hail Vatica, the Swiss god. Hail to the goddess Vatica. Hail to the Swiss god of Helvetica. Hail Pharaoh, hail Egypt, you dumb slaves. The second picture in that anthropologist's film that sparked a strong reaction out of the deep was the symbol of the Carthaginian goddess Tanit, which triggered the following intel. Well, we can see here the Freemason. Get your hands up, this is the FBI. For the pharaonic car, for the soul. Stick 'em up. A pyramid underneath, the sun overhead, and the octagon, and the two pillars, Yachin and Boaz, of the Freemasons, or the Temple of Solomon. And all this you can find projected on the St. Peter's Square of Vatica, or Vatican, which I'll show you in a minute. So, from top down, it says the sun, the soul, car, pyramid, meaning the soul comes from the sun and arrives in the pyramid, like the Templars' Baphomet, Ba-fe-me. Already translated that for you like 10 years ago, meaning Ba, the soul, Fa, arrive, and Me, pyramid. The soul arrives in the pyramid. Hands up is an ancient sign of surrender, as in this case, surrender, like when there's sacrifice going on and all this satanic stuff, you know. Surrender, open your heart and suck it all in. And you can also see the hands, it says square and compass. The arms are forming a square 2 times, so we got the concept of 4. The whole thing has a circle around it, but not in the ancient symbols, but the circle is depicted twice. Once in the pyramid and once meaning the sun. So it says square and compass. And all the initiated who sucked it all in, that stuff, they see this immediately. Only in this tenet symbol from Sarepta and Sarafand, which you can read here, it is more like Baphomet and Baphomet, but entirely pharaonic as always, because all the subcultures around come from Pharaoh, as the demotic Sar for King Pharaoh adds to the Ka and the pyramid and the rest. The whole, it's all pharaonic as always, and it goes the whole world now. So here I show you once more the differences between Ka and Ba. The Ba is, well, it's a bird, a birdie, eh? And so the hands up, like FBI, get your hand up, and Freemasons, and this tenet symbol. Well, it's all pharaonic. So the Templars have Baphomet, and this tenet symbol is Baphomet. It's all pharaonic. I immediately saw the same keyhole configuration of St. Peter's Square with the octagon cross in the middle. So we've got altogether octagon of the Sodomite Templars and their Swiss guard, Osiris his phallus, the obelisk in the middle, and a keyhole in Vatica's backyard, with the stupid slaves believing in their religious hocus pocus. And you can see in the middle, there is even that other circle, which on the, in that stone, which I showed you in the beginning, in the sun, there were 2 circles. So around the obelisk, there is another circle, as you can see that, and the 8 triangles around it for octagon. So you'd say, you know, there's something missing, you know, like the car hands are missing. Where are the car hands? We see the sun, the pyramid, or, you know, where are, and the whole keyhole thing. So where are the hands going up? So I had a look at some old paintings here by a Flemish master, or Dutch, and it's from 1681, so it's 350 years ago. Are the hands here? Maybe. Well, no. The obelisk is already there. Look at that. So where are the hands? Okay, I've got an idea. Let's have a look at this here. Oh, look, there it is. The old wizard is doing the car himself. He's giving the hands, you know. Everything is there and he's looking out on it. The obelisk is there. The keyhole configuration for tenet is there. The sun is out and the octagon in front of his eyes. Well, let's give it a car, and, you know, all the crowd suck it all in, eh? I even recently filmed the Carthaginian pharaonic symbol on a French motorway next to the original pharaonic pyramid, the Ratapignata, which I filmed many years ago on my channels Gure and Gatsefrats. And from Nice in France, you sail the dip and voila! Before you know it, you're sailing down River Nile. And look at that, it even has the inner circle, just as the carvings in stone and on the Vatican it's the same. So there are people around us who are absolutely perfectly initiated in all these things, and they're hiding it. Hey, Swissy, neutral, never done anything, clean, hidden, right? And on the motorway, everyone passes by, giving a good kick to all the initiates and their satanic perversions, seeing the goddess Tanit, her keyhole. Now don't pull out your obelisks, guys. Hold your horses. So here's the founding symbol of Rome and its pharaonic Etruscans, as I pointed out in my film lately about the pharaonic extension through Italy, taking the pharaonic slaves with them, who became the Italians, bringing havoc over Europe. But look carefully at this animal. Is that a wolf, that noble and spiritual animal of the northern woods for which they sell it to us for? Well, actually, this creature here doesn't radiate nobleness at all, and they only want to hide that the animal is not indigenous at all. Here, look at the ears. A wolf doesn't have those sort of ears at all. And look, it doesn't even have that huge brushy wolf's tail, that typical item making it a wolf. It doesn't have that elevated wolf stance of that athlete on four legs of the northern woods, but it has a low stance, not even depicting a formidable runner, but an overall terrestrial air around it. Here, look, this is what a real wolf would look like with two babies. You know, just look at it in silence for 3 seconds. The silence of the lies they tell us. Now, I'm from Africa, and I can tell you exactly what kind of animal that is of Remus and Romulus. And look at this animal here, you know, it's always looking at the side or backwards. It always does. Just like the statue of Remus and Romulus, which is not a wolf. Which was living in ancient Egypt and depicted on many pharaonic hieroglyphs. Even pharaohs taking the hyena on the leash, as you can see here, just as they do today. It's a hyena, and it has the head to the side, as hyenas do. Tail between the legs, these funny round monkey ears, and a low, non-athletic stance. And these Africans who still practice that today, they got the technique to do it from Pharaoh. Now, then why else a hyena in the statue of Remus and Romulus of Rome, the statue of the founding of Rome, except from the pharaonic link? Well, the answer is related to a famous phrase by Cleopatra's brother Ptolemy, who said once, and probably repeating it the whole time to everyone who wants to listen, just around going and saying, a lion is not dangerous, but hyenas are. Now, why the Vatican's hell did he say that? Hey, well, first of all, the lion is one of the symbols of the pharaonic dignity of the old world's order and the descendants of the worldwide aristocracy. Like always, two lions holding a nobility's coat of arms or in front of a castle. So Ptolemy, already during Pharaoh's time, knew there were forces around to topple the king Pharaoh and put in place the new world's order of the republic's horizontal rule. Secondly, a lion king of the jungle is an animal surviving in a patriarchal life form, and not like here depicted by female man-haters with their hate speech against anything that's masculine, including male animals like a lion. For FuckTube and the politicians, this hate speech is perfectly alright. But if I would dare to pronounce the specific name of this group of people, then I'd have my video deleted by FuckTube, or even worse. So on the other hand, whereas a hyena lives entirely under a matriarchal domination, thus Ptolemy, seeing his wife and sister, Cleopatra was his wife, as in a sort of fuck your mother and your son will be your brother pharaonic system. Eh? So he saw his wife and sister Cleopatra, with the help of the Roman Empire and Caesar, destroying the divine rule of the Lion King, the old world order, through women becoming the sisters of Isis, as in Swaziland's name, conspiring with dark evil forces of the demon goddess Isis and Vetica, as the real essence of the Egyptian biblical story of Eve, using the dark python force to dominate her man and finally getting rid of the horrible dominant essence, as they say so, of a male, as they believe so, through two massive world wars, enabling to recreate man not anymore by the image of God, but the image and will of Vetica, the goddess, and turn them into obedient soy boys in a police uniform, like a pack of hyenas crushing the individual man, like a pack of matriarchal hyenas chasing one individual patriarchal lion. So then this man of Pharaoh's house of David came and said, "Be brothers and don't kill each other," trying to avoid the coming genocide and war on the masculinity. And here it even says, in this thing here, that these sisters of Isis want men to be at war with each other. So the women have all the freedom to wage their war on the patriarchy. It says here, peace in patriarchy is war against women, by this woman, as in my Rammstein film, Eminem, Marilyn Monroe, Mariah Myers, which is of course a pseudonym for the goddess, Here with the big oval vulva at the background, like, well, step into my Oval Office, it says. And that the women want the men to be at war. Terrible murderous hate speech and organized criminal incitement to violence. Well, no problem for FuckTube, nor the Freemason judiciary, as long as it's not a man inciting and conspiring massive violence. Well, for women, that's fine, says Pharaoh. Therefore, the matriarchal beast, Vetica, and her sisters of Isis, who burned all the good women at the stakes as well, by the Swiss god and their Swiss book, the Malleus Maleficarum, the witch's hammer, and her representation of a hyena with two boys, Remus and Romulus, drinking milk by the matriarchy, feeding masculinity, raised without fathers due to the Horus matrix of two world wars, sucking in the compulsory teachings of the matriarchy through the spiritual milk of the goddess Vetica. Take a man's children away by the caste goddess worshippers of the SS social services, kill their fathers in two world wars and have them raised by the matriarchy, by the image of their goddesses, and no more by the image of God. And God is a man who created man in his image. It says in the Bible that God created Adam in his image. So that means God is a man. Eve was created after Adam, of a rib by Adam. So Eve is not, God is not a woman. So that's why the Satanists, they need a lot of goddesses, right? So that's in fact the matriarchy being the war makers, Isis and all that, and not at all the patriarchy as war makers. No. The men, they even fought in two world wars. They were defending the family and the women. You see how perverted it is, And they didn't have a choice. They were sucked into it by lies and by a conspiracy, by the ISIS worshippers. And the story, that's why we have all this now, they all turn it around, you know. It's not the patriarchy, the war makers. Everything is turned around. Everything is upside down. What is up is down, you know. As above, so below. That's why you hear all the time in Hollywood, all the time, motherfucker this, motherfucker that. You know, words we never heard before, right? And it's turned around. It's not a man fucking his mother. I mean, who wants to do that, eh? No, it's your mother's fucking you, homie. The ISIS sisters. But the story of the pharaonic snake and Adam and Steve, well, you got it again, Adam and Steve, and there are very few good women left, as most of the women made the alliance with Pharaoh's snake and just lie and conspire against man the whole day. This is one of the main reasons for killing the Jewish patriarchy. And soon the Muslim and Chinese patriarchy coming up, or coming after, or maybe coming down. And look how the metaphorical milk of the matriarchy flows out of 8 titties, as in octagon, or the octagonal cross in the Pope's backyard. No, not that backyard, silly. Well, you're probably right. Well, it looks like a mighty V8 under the bonnet here, eh? As in Rome's mighty V8, killing us all, with tits down, bringing havoc, and tits up to the white race of Northern Europe. Biggest genocide the world has ever seen. I'll show you what a wolf looks like, you dummies. A noble animal of the northern woods, exterminated by the goddess and her Eves and Steves, solely because it's a spiritual animal, faithful in their male-female divine bond forever, until death do them part. So it had to go, together with the patriarchy, whom you can see here with an arrow through the proverbial and physical heart, with everything as it should be, dead, persecuted and imprisoned like the V8 tits up of Rome's engine or the Rome's monster, now the beast of the Alps and today's Rome and whore of Babylon, with which all nations of the earth traded through her global network of Swiss Nazi Templar banks, Swaziland. Thirdly, the anthropologist talks about the Nordic goddess of the underworld, with one eye of fire, called Hel, H-E-L, meaning hidden. Hey, Swissy, hidden, neutral. And guess what the name of the goddess of Swaziland is? Helvetia, or Helvetica. The two goddesses of the underworld all together in one name for the underworld, as in CH, Confederatio Helvetica, officially for Swaziland, as the Swiss beast, home of the devil, with the Vatican belonging to Helvetica, and the Swiss police, Swiss guard of the Pope, an equally unique square flag as in the motherland of the Alps, the Etruscan cradle of Rome. That's why she's giving the same hail of the hand stretched out like the Pope is doing. She's doing Hail Rome, Hail Swaziland, and Hail Isis, Hail Pharaoh, Hail Vatica or Helvetica. Also bringing the goddess of the north, Hel, and the southern goddess, Vatica, as combining north and south, as we can see today, as the emerged north-south mixture of slaves through a southern invasion, emerging from two into one. Therefore, still today on the Swiss money coins, a Swiss Templar monk from the Crusades collaborating with the Caliph Saladin, and always killing the Europeans. So we can have them all here now, all peoples and all slaves of both North, Hel, and South, Vatica, merging into one Helvetica. Swissy financing the sleeper agent Hitler for Helvetica, who therefore said, one empire, one leader, a pharaoh, and one people all emerged into one. Ein Reich, ein Führer, ein Volk. All of this made possible through Helvetica in the Alps, who financed the Nazis to make place, and where all the NGOs are and all the money is, through the Swiss Nazi Templar banks. That's why it says Helvetia by night. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody sees anything. Helvetia by night. Here, look at the SS sign here, deliberately taking away the eye. The eye in the sky, yeah, the all-seeing eye. And that's why the Swiss Nazi Templars forced the German people to say Heil Hitler! Hail Hitler! Which most Germans didn't like at all. But hey, concentration camps waiting for not doing it. So Heil definitely refers to Hel, the goddess, related to the German word heilen, to heal. Well, heal, hell, you get it? Like I heal you from this life and send you to hell. Or heal the community by sending an evil man straight to hell. As they still did with, like for instance, with pedophiles in the good old days and the rest of them. Helvetica, the whore of Babylon, with whom all nations traded. A true seed of evil, through very dark practices and clean, neutral innocence, hidden as usual in fine Switzerland, as in the meaning hell for hidden. And look here, you can see all the squares. The whole thing is in a circle, which is a compass. So they all read square and compass, yeah. And you got every time 4 lines, you know, like here 4 lines, here 4 lines, and here 4 lines, 4 times. So here are 4 horizontal lines here as well. For the horizontal rule, yeah, by the Knights Templars, and here are 4 vertical lines, just as here, and these ones also 4. And this is through the concept of 3, the circle. And here it says Helvetica, the goddess of the north and the goddess of the south, Vetica, all emerging, a synergy, all into one. And this is what we see today. Look, the whore of Babylon in the Alps, they even have reptilian money, as I showed you here in my older channel, Gatzefratz. I had a lot more, as in my channel Guri, but it has been taken off. Like there was a 10 Swiss franc note in which they already showed the Nibiru constellation before it was even discovered. Nibiru or something. So I tried to contact the anthropologist, wanting to tell him about the vortex opening up, the visions I saw, sparked by those 3 single historical images, and all linked to the Swiss beast, home of the devil, Helvetica, or here Helvetia, same thing. Alas, very unfortunately, no email to find and only waving the money box around. Hopefully not going to sell goddess pills like Alex Jones. Which I find a pity, really. Myself believing that YouTube is about teaming up and communicating. Even answering the dumbest question by the lowest, so to speak. And I promise you, I'll never step on the pedestal or trying to egoistically save my own soul. For I'm just there to serve you and the uncertain future of our children and crush this evil pile of Middle Eastern pharaonic camel shit once and for all and bring the wolves back, both for real and metaphorically speaking, and just as real, out of the virtual into the 3D. So stand up, you garden gnomes of Helvetica, and stop serving the whore of Babylon with her gold pyramid of the Alps in the background. by your Swiss Army knife representing the Knights Templars in your belt, and the Vatican key as in their flag also in your belt, with a crown on your head, thinking you're the line and patriarchy. And for your grandma having loads of garden gnomes in a garden saying, "Oh, they all work for me. They don't know it." Night night. Sleep tight, y'all. Hello, all you good people. In this video here, I'll have to be extremely careful because of the thought police and the fucktube censorship Nazis. So I'll even have to find new words as pronouncing the old words. It will bring someone a lot of problems, as the enemy within has forbidden the use of certain words, which only the newspapers and the TV are allowed to use. Merely in conjunction with their agenda, of course, which they are massively trying to shove down our throats, if not, or else. And all of this is as usual related to Switzerland, of which I will give you all the facts and names of persons and organizations conspiring against humanity. They openly call for murder and they openly incite for genocide, only to turn it all around afterwards as the aggressors slipping into the victim's role as another attack strategy by having us all believe they're so terribly discriminated, shedding their crocodile tears out, changing laws very much in the disadvantage of our children, because they're everywhere now, on all government positions as police, judiciary, newspapers, state TV, school, SS, social services, because their masters of the Swiss Knights Templars share the same sexual orientation by all these guys in the Cistercian Templar monasteries, just all alone with each other, and a lot of monks robed to lift for a quickie on God's altar. Therefore, so many priests doing it with children, turning them over to the other side, which apparently works like drugs. If you've tried it once, you're hooked forever, like in the Freemason hook for the square. Hooked, squared, rounded up, all Freemason words by the Templars, and referring to the square and compass, their holy tools to draw a pyramid. And as I'm entirely pink-listed in my efforts to protect our children and to warn humanity from their next Nazi genocide on the man and their fathers, sons and brothers, through World War III being in the Templar mold, I call them the pink list killers, for the obvious legal and Nazi fucktube reasons. As I'm pink listed by this Templar offspring for the goddess in the Alps, all massively ringing the fucktube bell, shouting, "Hate speech, hate speech," whereas in fact it's they themselves inciting for genocide on the man. So honestly, adding it all up into the word pink list killers, because I'm apparently on the very organized pink list and they want to kill me, which is their agenda because I'm a man. Therefore, the pink list killers are massively joining ultra right-wing organizations to genocide the man again, which they call killing the patriarchy, where in fact there is no patriarchy and there never has been either. Most men just love their wives, mothers, sisters and daughters, even the so-called patriarchal Arabs, Muslims and the jaywalkers. Most men are stupid enough willing to die for their women in protection of them, as they got themselves trapped into Pharaoh's war propaganda by Leni Riefenstahl, the queen and the goddess. There never has been any patriarchy, but there definitely is a matriarchy, who openly say, let's go and kill the man and reshape their sons through the goddess her model of the Horus Matrix. So the murderous pink list killers and their hate speech inciting murder and bloodshed massively join right-wing parties and neo-Nazis, paramilitaries, like the second in command of the French right-wing Front National, Florian Philippot, openly doing the bloke's back mounting, saying to his fellow conspirators, "Let's kill all the Muslims because Islam forbids pink listing." So when Frenchy voted in 2017, Frenchy had the choice between two pink list killers, Philippot of the Front National and Macron, who already started killing the French and giving them all the all-seeing eye with Swiss weapons by Brugger and Tommet and their LBD-40s for the yellow vests. Templar guns from the motherland of the Knights Templars, huge pink list killers themselves. Then, in 2002, there was another extreme right-wing pink list killer who wanted to get rid of the Muslims because of Islam not complying with his sexual orientation. His name was Pim Fortuyn, I hope I pronounced it right, who had his own racistically motivated ultra-right-wing party in the Netherlands, on which another cloggy recognized the Nazi danger and resemblance to the Nazis. So he bought himself a peace and terminated the rise of the new Hitler, an imminent danger to his country, as he stated it. Now, the worst of it all is yet to come, and it is deeply related to Swaziland and motherland of the goddess Confederatio Helvetican, and it's happening right now. Last year, in 2019, the German extreme right-wing party AfD, or Alternative for Germany, had a tremendous voting success, and their leader, as in Führer, is a she-male pink lister killer by the name of Alice Weidel, living together with another she-male and two children they probably bought in the internet. Sort of Alice in Wonderland story, according to newspapers. They were living in the very liberal left-wing town of Biel in Switzerland, and recently they moved to the super right-wing canton of Schwyz, also in Switzerland. Because that's what the pink list killers do. First, and for decades, they have themselves protected by the left-wing liberals in order to get accepted by us all. In fact, betraying all the true values of the left-wing liberals. And when that's done and goal achieved, they move over to the extreme right wing to attack us all, and especially towards the Muslim man at the moment in general, and also against all the men, as in their violence incitements like kill the patriarchy. Alice Weidel gets financed by the Swiss and their Octagon Templar Nazis, just as during the Hitler era, therefore living in Switzerland, literally being the motherland of the goddess and getting full protection by Swissy, because in Germany it would be a lot more difficult to be protected from the Antifa. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Can you imagine that when factually already the new Nazi Führer are Nazi pink list killers, then how many pink list killers there are amongst their followers? And I met many pink list killers in Germany and France when many years ago I infiltrated neo-Nazi groups all over Europe, which finally led me into the octagon of the Nazi Templars of Switzerland, the base of it all. I heard in those days the Nazi pink list killers even say, "We are not very brave, but we are many." And this is the true essence of the Templars' evil, against which the King of France tried to save us. And the brave French king perfectly well understood the occult roots of it all and where you end up when leading it all back, which I show you furthermore in these older videos here on my channel Gatsefrat. And here, the neutral base of the master race, also in Gatsefrat, showing the occult roots by the images. This is why the origins of the very word of it all comes from the two words Eve and ill. Evil. Evil. So it started all with Eve and the snake on Pharaoh's forehead. And this is where we are today. Eve saying, kill the patriarchy. Eve, ill, evil. Thus coming back to the goddesses like Helvetica or Hel Vatican, or River Thames from Thames called La Thamise in French, a reference to the goddess Thames or Themesis, which is a word combination of Thames and Isis. Isis, Themesis. Therefore, the Thames becoming River Isis. Exactly there where the elite University of Oxford is, where today's pharaohs do the annual Oxford-Cambridge boat race, feeling themselves back home at River Nile. With this year's 2020 teams like Blondie versus Osiris and Goldie versus Isis. Might as well call it boat race on River Nile under the eye of the Shardana. Yeah, look here it says Oxford 2020, Cambridge, the races here. Look, they even have a website. Go check it out, eh? Go visit Osiris and Isis, eh? And you still think, you know, we are not their slaves. I'd like you to look first at the Freemason checkerboard configuration, black and white here, of the squares, like in the square and compass. And the Freemasons, they come out of the Knights Templars. And we all know what they mean with slay, eh? We all know that. This is not a Father Christmas fairy tale here, eh? This is real, and it's very bad. So we got ourselves a situation now here. Where the real organized Nazis and their occult evil and their Templar origins can talk freely and openly say, let's kill the real men and make soy boys out of them. Whereas young, misled, manipulated little skinheads go to prison for repeating the same things, the occult Nazi leaders teach them in order to sow anger into their hearts. It's a classic Tavistock setup, folks, to gear up for war. Anyway, I'd say freedom of speech for the misled little neo-Nazis, so we know what they're up to and what's cooking, instead of compulsory hiding in the dark, so the secret organizations can get hold of them, because then they're both in the secret. You get me? So listen up, J people or J tribe. You don't do yourself nor us a favor with this by persecuting them stupid little misled neo-Nazis by raping their freedom to express themselves as if we were living under the Inquisition in the Middle Ages. Now, let me wake you up. This is the 21st century. That offers a whole range of intellectual solutions, like what I do, talking to them as a father, because they definitely need help with their problems, before they'll become our problems again. With your dumb hate speech Nazi censorship, you think that you're treating the disease, whereas you just lower the fever and its temperature momentarily, while the disease is growing bigger because you don't see it anymore, because the fever is gone. While beneath the surface, the disease is augmenting even more rapidly, as in stirred up through Nazi censorship provocation. Let me explain that to you in other words. Hate speech censorship is just symptom treatment as lowering the fever, collecting some visual results, that it is dangerously counterproductive, leaving a bad diagnosis for not knowing what's growing underneath. And if we refuse to understand this, then these kids will turn their problems into our problems, and history will repeat itself. I, Sean Ross, have changed thousands of little neo-Nazis by neutralizing them, as in the army neutralizing a bomb. And it is a bomb. Go watch this film here. It's important to understand the mechanics. Let me tell you, J-Tribe, Pharaoh doesn't want us to help these lost souls, because then the elite won't be able to use them anymore for their evil projects, you see? And don't you J-boys think that you'll be off Pharaoh's objectives, because you're still on the radar and in Pharaoh's crosshairs. Gee, I don't know how to call you J-boys anymore either, because as soon as you use the J-word, the censorship machine of FuckTube will delete the video, even if you make a video in favor of the J-tribe, as I do. I'm really terribly sorry to use these words, because I have no problems with you J-boys, but the current dictatorship leaves me no choice, and I desperately beg for understanding from your side. I think I'll call you jaywalkers from now on, as in jaywalking and not respecting the traffic laws, in this case for not respecting the communication traffic with free speech traffic laws in the rabbit hole. I learned the word jaywalking here with Bao, getting harassed for nothing by the internal Blue Templar Army. But I will write it J-WALKER as a reference to the J people, with whom I have no problems, on the contrary, but who wrongfully believe that the solution is a final one from the Dark Ages concerning the censorship. And honestly, I wish it was different and I could address you by your real name, which you also deserve. But we all have to protect ourselves these days from this witch hunt, censorship, inquisition. So I beg you jaywalkers for understanding. You don't leave us much choices, do you now? So here we are in the 21st century, and a lot of good people here at my channels who want peace and justice, only finding themselves cut short through a medieval censorship witch hunt. What a fucking progress. Written with PH, of course, for the censorship. Fuck, that is, and not with an F. I'm going to give you some more intel how nasty it's all getting, where Nazi Templar pink list killers like Renaud Camus and even jaywalkers like the French Alain Finkielkraut, you read the name here, he's a jaywalker, and the other French jaywalker Eric Zemmour are teaming up in a not very kosher alliance with neo-Nazis like Brenton Tarrant, an extremely vicious circle protected through the hate speech concealment tactics of the FuckTube Nazis. As it has come out now that the mosque events of New Zealand of 2019 were precedented by the shooter's visit to France in 2017, where he met up with the conspirators behind the scene who also financed him, in the castle of the very dangerous pink list killer Renaud Camus, who wrote the book GR by the title's initials, which apparently I am not allowed to pronounce. Only the newspapers are allowed to pronounce it. Here you can see the initials of that word. In a remote Templar area We're just a few clicks away from Château de Plieux. I visited in 2019 the Templars Tower of Gimbrede. Here you can see this, Gimbrede, and here it says Tour de Templiers, the Tower of the Templars, and this is the name of the film where you can see that, which is right next to that castle of the Pink List killer, related to the Christchurch, or I can't even say that, the events in New Zealand. So here you can see the castle of the bloke. That's where the Brenton Tarrant was, without any doubt. It's a Templars area, and here I was in the Tower of Gimbrede. It's about 7 clicks away. So here you can see another screenshot, Château de Plieux. The other one is like, you know, just right next to it. Here is Agen, Montauban. And here I visited some more Templars castles, commanderies, and it's a Templars area. Nazi Templars, right? So in that same area, real next to that castle where the guy from New Zealand went to, really near. I filmed this very impressive Templars castle. Here's some commanderies, and this is that castle, real like 7 clicks away. And this film here. Here are the titles underneath. Okay, so if you want to see that. So here you can see that again, Gimbrede. I did a lot of filming there, a lot of castles, real Templars castle, and amazing footage with Templars crosses and all that. Next to where the real in the same area where the guy from New Zealand, where he met up with the Nazi Pink List killer or killers. This is Nazi Templars, folks. Watch my film, The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. This is Octagon. Octagon is behind it. There's no, and I made a film about it, which FuckTube immediately deleted. Again, I'm terribly sorry for not being able to call things by its name, as I already had several videos deleted and striked only for mentioning the events of New Zealand of 2019 by the upholders of the agenda. So I guess it's okay when I show the newspaper articles to reveal certain words I am not allowed to pronounce. So FuckTube can pass the responsibility on to the various newspapers, instead of harassing the little man and tiny YouTuber with a voice. So here again, we can see how dumb and young neo-Nazis get manipulated by extremely sly and highly intelligent people in order to have the dumb white neo-Nazis do what the puppet masters desire and don't want to do themselves. Therefore, in my eyes, the perpetrator, being also a victim of this occult machinery, just as small little brainwashed German children of the Hitler Youth were. So in my eyes, the only solution to the rapidly growing threat is to accept little dumb misled neo-Nazis as victims and help them, before the other ones in their castles come and help them. And we shouldn't help them because we like them, but rather because we love ourselves and our children. And this is exactly what I warned you for about the Nazism of the rich and the Nazism of the poor in my video, The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. And remember that it is a fact that the vast majority, a staggering 69%, of the world's serial killers were pink listers, who have all obstacles removed through political correctness, defended by hate speech against any possible opposition, and by threatening Google and FuckTube with massive lawsuits, while they themselves massively spread their incitements for violence in total impunity, where the war makers use hate speech as a tool to silence the peacemakers. If you don't understand the words jaywalkers and pink list killers, then watch part 1 first, in which the words are explained, and it's due to the Nazi censorship. So here you can see it, part 1, here's the title. War makers use hate speech tool to silence the peacemakers. Now, my channels and my videos are for peace amongst all peoples, all religions and all races, and for justice in the world. And it's a joy to see that most comments here under my videos show mutual respect and understanding. And because FuckTube and the enemy within do not like this, FuckTube Nazis delete my videos in my Gure channel. Because FuckTube protects the war makers as these pink list killers who are openly conspiring for racism, genocide and civil war. With all extreme right-wing leaders being pink list killers and gearing up for war, bloodshed and misery for our children, and viciously attacking the peacemakers who dare to speak against their vicious plans by striking them with hate speech conceived by the FuckTube Nazis, where in fact it's called hate speech because it protects the ones doing the hate speech in their marvelous defense mechanism, so intelligently laid out that only the big chief of all evil must have masterminded it. So hate speech is a protective tool for hate speech by the mafia of evil. And again, I cannot express myself to the full extent as needed, and I cannot pass on all the necessary intel due to the pink list killers' organized mafia breathing into my neck. The evil one turns everything around backwards, as above so below, and reverse speech as in hate speech against peace speech. So you need to read in between the lines, please, where it's written what can't be written because of the international PLK mafia raping all our liberties. I'm so terribly sorry. Because right-wing Nazism is in fact an entirely pink list killer thing, with young and dumb neo-Nazis of the poor being led by true masters of deception as their leaders. I forgot this very important Nazi pink list killer of Austria, who almost became Austria's chancellor, Jörg Haider, as in Heil Haider, the Führer of Austria's FPÖ, Freedom Party Austria, and BZÖ, Alliance for Austria's Future. Oh, nicely promising names by the PLK masters of concealment for far more darker objectives by using innocence by name, as in the rape of innocence, in relation to their brotherhood deviances of all kinds. The brotherhood's deviancy of the Cistercian Knights Templars. You see the Templars cross here. Right? And Dr. Jörg Heil Haider was without any doubt a Freemason, as he was in Nazi student Freemason organizations called the Burschenschaft in German. And his Burschenschaft lodge was called Albia. You can see the Freemason handshake, eh? Well, what better name to choose for a Nazi-like student Freemason lodge? Because Albia means white in Latin. The Burschenschaften lodges are the Nazism for the rich, who become politicians, industrials, lawyers, engineers, doctors, etc. And they are tightly knitted man clubs that still practice fencing, gatherings in castles and Templar commanderies. These Burschenschaften Nazis should be treated very different than some misled skinhead Nazism of the poor. But well, they never talk about them in the media, of course, because they occupy the leading positions and tell the editorial office not to talk about them, to get in the same box of untouchable files with Swaziland. Here you can see the name, Burschenschaften. Here, there they are. So here I filmed some former Burschenschaften members goose-stepping in 2012. So here's the title of the film, you just punch it in. And in the old days, and apparently some still do today, these dudes all had some self-inflicted fencing scars on their cheeks to impress each other. As in, you dominate me tonight, or shall I dominate you? Which is the essence of the hierarchy, actually, and which comes out of the Knights Templars. Therefore, the Pink List killers, whom I will also call PLK now and then, therefore the PLK boys feel so attracted to uniforms and dressing themselves up with badges, insignia and iron crosses to impress each other for the dominating act coming night, being really into BTK, bind, torture, kill, dominating stuff. As the prisoners of Auschwitz concentration camp were in fact BTK victims by these monsters who fabulously conceal their true identities, again by dressing up physically and psychologically. And one of these monsters was Heil Haider, head of the Austrian Nazi Party, living together with another Pink List killer called Stefan Petzner, where Petz in his name means the bear in Swiss German. And as the Pink List killers are true masters of disguise and deception, Heil Haider had even gotten himself a wife and family to lure the potential voters into the big lie and devious setup. Just as President Macron did. Watch this interview with a former colleague of Macron. Here's the text. Or Blondie here, who even actually paints his nails. And he's the Führer of the actual Dutch Nazi party, who openly supports the PLKs all the time. And I mean, what kind of guy dyes his hair blonde? Eh? Blondie here also supposedly has a wife, as very likely female cover-up, just as Heil Haider and his wife Claudia. What lying monsters these all are. I mean, if they already lie about their inner lives, giving us an entirely different picture about what else more do they lie, huh? This guy's name is Geert Wilders. So here you can read his name of Blondie here, Geert Wilders. I don't know if I pronounce it right, eh? So, Geert Wilders. And I have my serious doubts about these ones here too. Look, and here it says EDL, it means English Defence League. Look, and here it's again, English Defence League. They're Pink List killers. I mean, Tommy Robinson, eh? Look at that. It's the same thing all over, folks. And all these Nazi leaders openly support the Pink List killers in their videos and all want a genocide on the Muslims. The latter who are probably the only force left for traditional family values. And forget about the Christians who are too busy turning the other cheek and accepting everything the devil has to offer, merely spending their time by making a seat reservation in paradise. And here you can see a Heil Haider with the other Pink List killers. And here on YouTube, the Christians all seem to know who the next who the Antichrist will be, but they all give a different name. So here we can see Heil Haider here, the Pink List killer, together with the Pope. Now let me emphasize on your false interpretations and evil accusations which already endured after I said in my Christmas film that Christians, historically seen, are the biggest killers in history. So listen carefully for all you wannabe Inquisition persecutors. I say the way Christianity gets effectuated and the Christians themselves is the problem. Therefore, the whole of Christianity being a disaster and not the doctrine itself. The original Christianity, that of 2000 years ago, is dead, and it's about time to admit it. The best thing would be to put all those religions together and make a new one out of it. A one world religion, and finally have some peace in the world. So here you see the correct spelling of the word Antichrist with an E here and not an I, because it's from the word anterior, the one who comes before. So the Antichrist with an E is not necessarily the bad guy. This is what Hollywood made out of it. And it's not anti, but anti with an E from the word anterior, what comes before. The Antichrist means before Christ, and he's not the devil, who comes in fact later. Well, I mean, if it's all true altogether, all these prophecies. Maybe the prophecy is all based upon lies anyway, just like Heil Haider and the pink listers and their perfect lies. So here you can see the title of my film here about these two here doing all the Freemason symbols and hand signs. So and here the other ones also doing Freemason hand signs all over the screens and openly accepting the pink list killers. I mean, look at Heil Haider, Macron, Hitler. This is what they do to lure us in, showing themselves embedded into true family values while being monstrous pink list killers, working hard on their next genocide through lies and deception. Just as the pink list killers were highly involved in this genocide here for the obvious reasons, concerning the conventional standpoint of the orthodox jaywalkers towards the pink list killers and their unholy practices. And Hitler was an Austrian, like Heil Haider, hiding behind the Eva Braun front, just as Haider hiding behind the wife front of his, or I don't know whose, Claudia Haider, being one of the other reasons for Hitler killing all the leaders of the National Socialists, like Ernst Röhm in the Night of the Long Knives on June 30th, 1934, because they knew of Hitler and his Templar Nazis being pink list killers, which the Workers' Party members didn't see fit for a pure German race. So Hitler needed a final solution on the original German National Socialists and had them killed, replaced, and story turned around that in fact Ernst Röhm was a pink list killer, which is of course a lie, one of the many pink list killer lies by Hitler. So on October the 11th, 2008, Heil Haider died a violent death, drunken speeding in his fast car, being emotionally upset because of a quarrel with his pink list killer boyfriend Stefan Petzner, and having spent the night in a PLK bar in Klagenfurt together with other pink list killers, while his boyfriend probably went out dancing, as the PLKs like dancing. Just as their PLK leader, the Grofats, whom you see waltzing here. And of course, after the violent death of the Austrian governor, rumors and conspiracies arose quickly that the Jaywalkers' secret service was behind the crash. Because for Nazi Templar PLKs, in the end, the Jaywalkers are still responsible for it all, and for every mishap. Never talking about Switzerland, of course. Another very dangerous pink list killer and of Swiss origin was Mr. Hoover, 50 years director of the FBI, and of Swiss origin by the real name of Huber, here together with his boyfriend Clyde Tolson, as always dressing up together as in a uniform, as the PLKs like that, they like uniforms. Another man who liked to dress up as in an Oriental fashion show was Colonel Gaddafi of Libya, who also had a dislike for Islamists, just as the pink list killer right-wingers, and therefore Gaddafi he spent $45 million on Heil Haidar, plus another $10 million from another fashion show updresser, Saddam Hussein from Iraq, who also had a grudge against Islamists, and all the money, of course, transferred over the Swiss Nazi Templar banks, as the media stated. Heil Haider's boyfriend's sister, Christiane, said that Heil Haider's wife, Claudia, was jealous. And Heil Haider's boyfriend, Stefan Petzner, sobbed at the Heil funeral. He was the man of my life. So very charming. Anyone else wants to join the Nazi party? Well, you better think it over, pal, because now I understand why all these pink list killer Nazis all do the Hitler salute and raise the one arm. So you can't hold your pants properly at the same time. And with only one hand, at the same time giving any given opportunity and the green light by indicating that the hands can't be simultaneously at the same place. Well, homie Ross catching them Nazis with their pants down, so to speak. Anyone who wants to join the Nazi Templars, well, stick your hands up. But watch my videos first before you do so, unless your wives are not jealous by nature. Anyway, you Nazis, you don't have to stick them up in front of me, because I don't take any Nazi prisoners, you hear? Hey, Swissy?
The international media call this Swiss guy here the Beast of Rupperswil, as in my film The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil. The Swiss Beast of Rupperswil, Jack the Rupperswil. I made these videos here about this international Swiss serial killer protected by the Swiss Nazi police. So watch them first, so I won't have to repeat the settings of this miserable Swiss story. The moment in France when I first saw his picture, it rang a bell, that I had seen his face somewhere before, but I couldn't place it at the moment. Then years later my memory and all the historical data caught up with me. Ethnic Swiss Dr. Mengele, the angel of death from Auschwitz. Same smile, same ears, same eyebrows, same skull, same crimes, same cold lack of remorse and absolute absence of conscience nor pity for his victims. The Rupper Beast, his father, was born in 1953 in the north of Switzerland, where also Mengele was in the 50s, 60s and 70s in the north of Switzerland, with Mengele's son Rolf in a super rich boarding school in Swaziland for the young pharaohs. See my film here on Mengele, because I'm not gonna repeat it all in this video here. And if you don't see these other videos here, you will not understand the whole story. These satanic bloodlines of Pharaoh have this evil in their genetic code memory and get initiated by the Brotherhood and also their Swiss Sisters of Isis. Therefore, his lesbian-orientated lawyer, Renate Zen, saying in court that the victims themselves were responsible for their ordeal. As the 13-year-old who got sodomized by the Beast of Rupper before he slit his throat in front of his mother, still riding the kid. Only homos can understand what he did and even minimize this evil, of which they themselves are so passionate about, using every opportunity to get us used to it. As this clean Swiss lawyer with a website made by a lesbian software company called Alphabet Exceed. The her-to-her homo connection have their fingerprints all over this crime. What do you say, Mr. Police Investigator or Mrs. Profiler? This terrible case with a 90% profiler possibility hit is leading to the Homo Mafia. Just throw the data in your police computer and you'll see what it will calculate. Problem though, the police is full of them too, as the Swiss pink cops, seeing to it that theirs get a full protection. Just as this filthy Swiss story shows of a Swiss cop raping a child and never does a day in prison. Switzerland is full of these stories, and most of them won't make it even into the newspapers. And this is because Switzerland was founded by the Templars. In Switzerland, they only put immigrants and foreigners in prison for nothing. Hierarchy in a police uniform is the essence of sodomy for Adam and Steve within the cops' hierarchy. Steve, honey, you're gonna dominate me tonight?
No, Adam, I want you to dominate me.
Oh,
Yes?
and don't forget to bring your pink handcuffs, darling. You know, the ones I gave you for your birthday. Oh, you naughty, dirty little Swiss police rabbit you are. Hey, Swissy. They're everywhere. Just look at it. The authorities, the police, the army, all carrying guns and weapons. And they pursue just completely other criteria than what people are misled to think. Even here in prison, Thomas Nick the Swiss Beast gets tousled back up by the club by allied female prison guard, even doing private phone calls for her club member. Seeing the level of satanic solidarity amidst the Homo Mafia and analyzing the complexity of the execution of this crime, calculating all possibilities of what might have gone wrong, attacking 4 people at once. It must therefore be assumed the Rupert Beast was not alone, and it was not his first murder either. In the 6th state of Switzerland, some homicided lawyer can commit the felony of justifying the horrible crimes of the Swiss Beast, which he did in fact. On the other hand, when in the Swiss Nazi dictatorship some ice hockey supporters only say thank you or danke in German, they get arrested and sent to jail, which actually happened because of this. Friedrich Leibacher, whose name stands here, when he was a child, the Swiss Nazi authorities threw him in a mental institution for no reason at all other than being blacklisted and pink-listed by the Swiss Horus Matrix to make obedient Swiss slaves, where they abused of him. So he learned to hate the Swiss authorities for the horrendous crimes they had inflicted on him, still being a child. And he set up a time span, postponing the fulfillment of his plans to a much later date. And he said to himself, when they opened the doors of the boogie house, that he wanted to live first, and therefore had to leave Switzerland to be free. And looked for a place in the world where nobody likes the authorities. Central America. He married and had children in the Dominican Republic. Then in his late 50s saw to it that his children had their future secured, and went back to settle the old score and do the things that cannot be forgotten. He bought himself some goodies, exactly these ones here, these were the ones, and knocked on the door of the nearest authorities. Knock, knock, I'm back. Guess who's back? and he scored a permanent hit on 14 of his tormentors and 14 tangos less of Pharaoh's internal mafia. A Swissy, tango down. The connection to evil goes even further, as less than 2 days after the crime of the Swiss beast, and still in the realm of winter solstice satanic rituals, the Boleskine house of Aleister Crowley burned down on December 23rd, 2015. Just the next day in Liberty, fleeing the grip of the Swiss evil, in the Boleskine many people ended up insane or had a miscarriage. Boleskine, probably from Baal, the devil. The kin of Baal's his worship is, Baal's kin. And the Baal's kin house looks out on the lake, where the monster of Loch Ness lives, as if it were from out of another realm. Maybe the devil's own personal jacuzzi bathtub, the Lake of Loch Ness. Once a pharaonic princess came to Scotland and became the Queen of Scota, therefore the name Scotland. And she brought with her Pharaoh's wizards, the Erev Rav, also called Druid. The Druids, and that's why we have Karnak, these stones, like in France. And in Egypt, same name, Karnak. And all black magic, African voodoo, Druids, you name it. It all comes from Pharaoh's Egypt. Here, Aleister Crowley, from a long Egyptian tradition of Druids. Therefore, these guys and the pharaonic bloodline, as this evil seed here, all walk around in skirts, as if it were an ancient fashion show on River Nile. We're being lied to, folks, in this pharaonic fairy tale nightmare of 1001 Nights. Crowley was married to the Swiss Lea Hirsig from the canton of Bern, and they got a child they nicknamed Poupée, meaning the puppet, that died as a puppet 8 months later in 1920 in their temple of Thelema in Sicily, where many people found their end, as the 23-year-old Brit Raoul Loveday in 1923, with many children disappearing in Sicily at the same time. All this evil always has a connection with Pharaoh's base in the Alps, Swaziland. So if you practice Satanism in order to liberate demons for some terrestrial goal, they do the blood ritual first, as on solstice 215 by the Swiss beast in Rupperswil. Then a portal will be opened as the Boleskine or Baal's skin house with the fire from hell. And only then, when that's done, you do the ceremony, as the one just a few months after, on June the 1st, the opening of the St. Gotthard Tunnel, an openly satanic ritual next to the CERN portal. Dear people of this earth, and all religions of this planet, listen carefully. All the holy books are old and need some serious updates, like your computers. They were written in a time without 5G technologies, without airplanes, atomic bombs, transhumanism, and without anti-baby pills. God wants a reset adaptation for the final battle. The sixth commandment, unilateral killing, only by our masters killing us, it doesn't work. So we need to change the rules of engagement and apply section 6b.
A bright commenter on yesterday's Pink Lister video here noticed that they'd already slain Father Christmas here, as only his hat is left, but the man had already been slain. Furthermore, proving the incitement for violence by the Pink List killers on all men, and the definite murder threat nicely and legally camouflaged. It's a weird coincidence that yesterday, February 9th, 2000 2020, when I finished and uploaded my pink list video, which you can see here, Swissy voted yes in a Swiss referendum accepting a new pink list killer law, opening up the next witch hunt on humanity, in which Pharaoh can send anyone to prison for a long time who won't accept the pink list killers and their ways. Thus, of course, giving the Nazi Templars the perfect tool to persecute the Muslims and also the jaywalkers, those of the letter who still follow the old ways, of course. So today, the day after, Pharaoh's propaganda machine couldn't withhold their joy and showing the new Swiss octagon Nazi leader for Germany, Alice Heidel, all over, discussing her new Swiss Nazi goose steppers of the On brand, as if she were some Hollywood star. Oh, they're really pushing it. And that all the Swiss are in favor of a pink list killer marriage, like a nest for creating more little pink list killers Nazis for the Third World War, being in the Templar mold. You can see it the day after the referendum, February 10th, 2020. There you go. They're pushing it, eh? Therefore, I call the new Swiss Führer Alice Heidel, with a double S at the end of Alice, and the same initials H for CH18 or C18, a reference to Combat 18. Swissy is celebrating the new Führer all over the Swiss media day one after the referendum, adding up to the proofs how Nazis and pink list killers are all linked up being one and the same thing, as I've proven you yesterday in my film. So now how come the leader of the German Nazi party is living in Switzerland and not in Germany? So once again, Swissy is launching the next attack on Germany and the rest of humanity from out of Switzerland, the base of the Nazi Templars, as in the Swiss beast, home of the devil, in which I explain how Hitler was in Switzerland, his deputy Rudolf Hess even lived there, how Mussolini lived 2 years in Switzerland, where Swissy Nazi Templar trained him, just like Vladimir Lenin, 20 years in Switzerland before turning him loose on the Russian people, releasing the Red Terror on them, all made in Switzerland, like the Swiss health minister of the Third Reich, the Dr. Leonardo Conti, torturing millions, nicknamed the Swiss sadist, like the head of the SS Einsatzgruppen, the Swiss SS Standartenführer Karl Jäger, butchering millions, like the ethnic Swiss commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Höss, speaking Swiss German in Auschwitz, like the ethnic Swiss SS Himmler, Julius Streicher, Dr. Mengele, Christian Werth, SS Obersturmbannführer, Commandant of Sobibor Camp, Swiss ISIS Abu Musab al-Swissri, Templars, Teutonic Knight, 30-Year War, etc. and so forth, all coming out of Switzerland, attacking humanity, just as today's Alice Heidel, using Switzerland as an aircraft carrier to launch the next attack on Europe, and most of all, the Germans. History repeating itself. Apparently they've run out of ideas. So they tried it first for decades with a, well, let's say, soft approach to seduce us into the new pink list killer manhunt laws, which they're gonna shove down our throats now the hard way through yesterday's new manhunt laws of Switzerland, in conjunction with the new Swiss Nazi Templar star Alice Heidel and her Templar pink list killers. Well, it's not my cup of tea, really. This is Switzerland of the Knights Templars, folks. I warned you, and it's rapidly folding out again. Of course, Swissy is going to use yesterday's new Swiss referendum laws as a tool against the only opposition left in a true manhunt on the Muslims. just as Swissy launched the assault from out of the motherland against the Jaywalker people during World War II. The new Swiss female Führer for the goddess Helvetica has a nest with another pink list killer female and two defenseless growing up humanoids in their nest. Whereas I, Sean Ross, hardly ever see my children anymore because of the terror of the Swiss beast, the whore of Babylon, with whom all nations traded through her Swiss Nazi Templar banks. Last year, October 2019, the great Dr. Catherine Horton of Stop 007 had sent me proofs that I was under surveillance by tiny drones hidden in insects, which she discovered in this presentation video here on my Cocaine Import Agency channel, explaining how the Swiss pulled the Wall Street crash robbery in America. Now don't laugh now, these things exist, and you can find footage about that on YouTube and in the internet. And Dr. Horton is an expert on little things, and even smaller than that, as she has a PhD, she is a doctor from Oxford University in particle physics, which is one step further down the rabbit hole after quantum physics. So when Dr. Horton tells me it was a drone, then it was a drone, because Dr. Horton is an expert and an academic who goes by the facts only, just like me, therefore being a great fan of my videos too. She worked as a physicist for CERN Geneva, and she even lectured nuclear physics, being a professor at Oxford University. Exactly there where River Isis is part of the Thames for the goddess Themis or Themesis, La Thémise in French. Then her brilliant career came to an abrupt end when MI5 and others of Pharaoh's secret services against mankind started to harass, persecute and torment her. And now she has even disappeared, completely vanished. She was last seen in Zurich, Switzerland, where thousands of people have disappeared without a trace, as 10,000 asylum seekers hear my video. And I'm talking 2013, 7 years ago. With Swissy just saying, oh, they just disappeared themselves. And same Swissy techniques as back then in 1945 in the camps. So it was here in this presentation film in my channel here, where Dr. Horton from Oxford University and Swiss CERN, a woman experienced in tiny details for being a nuclear particle physicist, saw this here, right under our noses all the time, so small and hidden that only the trained eye of this remarkable woman, Dr. Horton, was able to detect. Thank you, Catherine. I hope you're all right.